live on there.
Oh no.
It says, hasn't come across the picture yet. There it is. And then
I should get my little notification.
we
There it
started
goes.
here.
My Amazon package is on the way.
And connecting live video. There it is. Go live on Facebook.
There we are. It is kind of late, I guess, for us.
Yeah, it is. Hello, everyone. Or, howdy, RTT.
Hello.
Can you hear us okay?
Oh yeah, we should check.
Looks like our mic is working.
We didn't do our little check, did we?
What check?
Don't we usually go check?
No.
No.
I just looked for it on the OBS software.
Sometimes you say test.
MW1 online. Hello, class. Yeah, well, we're all in class. If we want to be, if we choose to look to do.
Don't forget to hit the like button, please.
Yes, and rise above. Hello to you.
Hello.
Namaste, as they say in Tibetan.
Is that what they say in Tibetan?
I think so, sometimes. And so we titled this
a long title.
A long title, right? We titled it Comet, Earthquake, Meteors, Megastorms. And Kathy doesn't know that I put this description in here.
Oh.
So I hope she...
what does it say?
And we can edit it if it's... But it's reminiscent of the fact that Kathy and I recently listened to part of Planet About to Be Recycled.
Oh yeah, well we
Your
were
only
driving
chance
into
to
town.
survive is to
evacuate.
To evacuate
with
is
us.
to leave with us, right? There's a video that Doe made in 1996. In September, I believe, right? And he made one in October that was like it. It was called Last Chance to Evacuate Earth on that one. So, and so I said in my description, Doe gave the warnings in 1996, 27 years ago, a little over a half an hour next level time. And we are attempting to help people recognize from he and T's teachings why and how to connect with him now by literally asking him in the deep space heavens for service.
Well, and that tape that I listened to, that was, I think I did write it down. Like, I really need to start writing these down. It was like 17 minutes long that talked about we need to be every moment of the day, if you want to be in service, to ask for it and to be asking, is this how my older member would be doing this? Down to, whatever it is, driving a car, brushing your teeth, pushing your cat's butt out of the way. Is this how my older member would be doing this?
Right, which, of course, when Doe was here in the classroom...
To connect with them.
When he was here in the classroom, that class is no longer in effect right now. And you can look at the Heaven's Gate book, and you can see what he was talking about when they wrote the document that said that classroom was over. So, but he didn't, the classroom being over didn't change the list of major and lesser offenses that are all part of the overcoming process. and the fact that we're given the opportunity now to be of service by getting the word out, by talking about those teachings, to helping people that are asking in some way recognize that what the media says, although they get some of the facts okay, how many people were in the mansion and all that, but they don't get hardly any of the teachings right.
They don't even talk about it. They just say that, hopped a comet with a spaceship at the end of it.
Yeah, they say some things,
They all say that.
Yeah.
About, riding a comet, getting on the tail of a comet with a spaceship on it or something. It's always something like that. We just watched, there's a compilation of news reports, I think it's 3 or 4 of them, about the auction, the Heaven's Gate auction. And so it started out with like a newscaster and, talking about the San Diego County estate auction, and it was held 6 times a year. So the Heaven's Gate auction wasn't an event by itself. It was with several other different estates that the county was auctioning off at the same time. But of course it drew a lot of media presence, but it drew, did they say over 700 people or 70 people?
700.
700, yeah. But I don't know if that was 700 people in total that were there at the total event auction. But, it showed boxes of things that they had to have found in the mansion. It didn't look like there was much, actually. But they had toolboxes and VCRs and a huge big screen TV that must have been in a main room. But it was interesting to see that footage and see what the newscasters were saying about it. They did mention, which I think is really important to mention, especially for people that are collectors of Heaven's Gate material, that any personal effects that the group had, which I'm going to guess is like clothing, but specifically it was mentioned in one of the broadcasts about the purple shrouds. I'm going to guess the shoes, too, that everybody wants to get a hold of so badly, that no personal effects were auctioned during that event. And that all of the personal effects went to, quote-unquote, surviving members after a legal settlement. So anybody that claims that, they have a shroud from the mansion, or they have, the shoes from the group or anything like that, I could be wrong, but they're liars and they're just trying to steal your money. Because I can guarantee you, and I could be wrong about this too, but I can guarantee you that Mark and Sarah King are not selling any of that stuff. I hate to bring them up, but they lied to our faces and said that all that stuff was burned. They said anything that touched the bodies was burned. So.
Well, we don't know what was burned, right? Something might have been burned.
Yeah, we don't know, but
right.
I'm pretty sure they lied and said that. Because even in the description of the property list of what they got, it says any shrouds.
Right.
So
that's right.
We know they lied.
So that wasn't learned. That wasn't burned.
Yeah.
Those weren't burned. So yeah, so they sometimes they lie by what
So Mark and Sarah could have 39 pairs of Nike shoes, y'all. Quick, go to their house. No, I'm just kidding.
I doubt it. I think those things probably were eliminated, but I don't know because they weren't in the list.
Why would they eliminate those and not the shrouds?
Well, maybe the shroud was in storage.
It makes more sense that they would get rid of the shrouds. Especially because they were covering up there. Well, what, there's an extra shroud.
There might have been a shroud for Rio. Because he left 2 weeks before. And, and since he didn't use it, maybe, there was one there for, for him.
The list of stuff is very lacking.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of details in
Yeah,
it. There's something that's just
it's
boxes
like
of
boxes of miscellaneous papers. It's like, what kind of papers?
Right.
What's on those videotapes? What do you mean boxes of videotapes?
Right. And so, but it's
it was kind of I don't know, it definitely gave me I watched it by myself first because Sawyer was working in town, and when he came back there was a part of it that it surprised me that and we know that newscasters get things wrong because we've been direct victims of that, so to speak, that they report things in a certain way that it's not quite a lie but not quite the truth.
Right, and that's also Mark and Sarah kind of say things sometimes that are partially true, and then you find out that there was a lot more to the story.
Yeah.
And that they weren't telling you, and they could have told you a little bit more, in response, in a decent response.
But what that newscaster said was any personal effects left behind were given to the surviving members after a legal settlement, which we know that was just Mark and Sarah. So
right,
and I know it's just like the human emotion in me that it gets on my nerves when people say they're surviving members because they weren't in the class.
Right.
They were not in the group. They had been out of the group since 1987. So for 10 years, they were not members of the group. In fact, they're listed as former classmates.
That were taking care of the mail. That's how they were listed. Because
by the group. The group listed them that way.
Right. Doe sent a list of people that were receiving a similar packet from the FedEx packets that they sent out. And they sent out more than one to some people. Like Rick Odie got more than one. And one of them had paperwork for the truck in it. That truck was actually sold at auction, I believe. Right?
Yeah, and that's what was interesting too, to see that footage. And it was a convalescent home and this is what the reporter said, a Hollywood producer or Hollywood production, whatever, a Hollywood producer with rights to a movie. So it was like they were going to make a movie, I guess, about Heaven's Gate. But it doesn't seem like that happened, and they were going to use that truck, I guess, in the movie.
But that's not the same truck. That was the one that was outfitted for handicap.
Yeah, so I don't think it was the one that Cody was instructed. Well, Mark and Sarah instructed to get out of the other storage and to use that vehicle to get everything out of the other storage.
And Rick Cody
was two storage locations.
Rick Cody was actually, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, but he was suggested by Doe through pursers, some of the crew members, to retrieve the truck and use it to go to storage.
Which we're still trying to figure out. Well, we're not. It's we're probably just banging our heads against the wall, which is what it feels like sometimes, because hindsight's 20/20, right? But why didn't Riccoti and Ascoti, when they went to San Diego, why didn't they go to the storage location that had the truck first and then go to the other storage location that had the audios and everything else second? It's almost as if they didn't know about the truck, or it was, I don't know, it just is. There's other events that happened as far as they did fly in the second time that they went to San Diego. They flew in to retrieve the vehicles that were left at the airport. And since there were only two of them, they could only drive two of the vehicles away.
Right. If all four of them had gone, Mark and Sarah and Riccoti and Ascoti.
Which is what I think Doe wanted to have happen.
Yeah, that's what he gave the main instruction to do that to Mark and Sarah. Although he gave them an out if they didn't want to do it, which he also gave to Riccoti and also gave to Wanodi.
Everyone who got packages had an out.
Yeah.
If you don't feel to do it, don't.
Right. Because there was always free will. Everything was always free will. And so I don't, but I mean, in the heat of the moment, like Kathy said, it's more difficult to make clear decisions on things. So.
And they were really tired too, and their basically family members had just all left.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's easy to sit back 26 years later and go, well, why the hell didn't they do that?
Right, and then
because then the whole thing would have been I don't know. It just, but that's not how it was designed. That's not what was, But actually, I think that is how it was designed. Doe and crew expected them to go as a crew, Mark and Sarah and Riccoti and Ascoti, and go get everything out of storage before the authorities got to it.
And they had just enough time to do that.
They had just barely enough time to do that.
They had a full day. Actually, 2 days.
Yeah.
Even more than that to do it, because they got their letters on the 25th.
And the locker was on by the 28th. The lock was on the locker by the 28th.
Right.
Because the story broke on the 26th when they were found, and Rio called 911.
Because they went to storage on the 27th. Riccoti and Ascoti did.
Yeah.
By themselves, with just 2 cars.
Which I'm still I said, hindsight's 2020. One box of audios was 468, and there's supposedly 1,061 audios, so there could have only been 2 to 3 boxes of audios. Why did you only grab one box? Why didn't you just grab all of them?
Yeah, I know. But, then again, maybe Doe wanted it to happen this way in order to bring all the lessons that would take place as a result. And
a lot of lessons.
Yeah, because they're still happening, the lessons from that. But the bottom line is that from those 486 tapes, we ended up with only the ones that Riccoti provided us. Sent them to me and sent them to, and Carl Odie was working with Riccoti
right,
at the
because
time.
he got those 486 and he kept 200 and something of them and gave the remainder to Mark and Sarah.
Well, Ascoti, got them.
Ascoti and then, but Mark and Sarah made it sound like they met with Riccoti before he absconded, Sarah's words, with the money and the tapes and the vehicle back to Colorado. Sarah said she could see the influence come over him. So it made it sound like they all met up together.
Well, maybe they did. I don't remember that part of Riccoti's manuscript. Exactly.
Well, no, that's what Sarah said to us in the meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, so,
because Riccoti was doing what he was told to do in the letter, divide and disseminate the material.
Right.
So he got 200 plus, he basically, and Mark even said that, basically divvied up half of them.
Right. And now they're suing us because we were playing those tapes on this YouTube channel, the ones that Riccoti gave to me in 1997. Anyway, so...
Should we go to the chat?
Sure. Yeah, I was going to address the chat right away because...
We don't want to get too far behind.
XF is here. Hello, XF.
Hey, XF.
And MW1 Online said, would the class today be fit for the original class? And that's, I think I answered that to some degree by saying that that class doesn't exist. The class that left doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, there's no class now.
Because there's no teachers.
To compare that to.
There's no teachers, and the program is different now. But that doesn't mean that we're not potentially students. Everybody now is potentially a student. But there's just not going to be any one location where all the students would gather in order to accept instructions from an older member, because there is no older member. And that older member is not coming back until the beginning of the next, in a teaching capacity, until the beginning of the next civilization on Earth. Because that's the way they do it. They took the graduation class out, and now the individuals that remain are potentially graduating to their next step in the school. The Human Kingdom School is like 12 steps.
The 12-step program.
Yeah, it's like a 12-step program. And when you're in the 12th grade, you don't find any value being here. You don't really like it here.
Right, you don't want to be in school anymore.
Sure, there might be things that you like to do, and because you're used to it and you don't know anything different, right? But that doesn't mean you like what's going on here, like with the governments, the way they do, and the wars, and the pollution, and the way that corporations are taking over, and the inflation
rate. They
rate.
have taken over.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting to be harder and harder to live here. I mean, the price of food's like, going through the roof.
We don't even eat that much. Like, do you have that receipt?
I don't know. No, I have another one here.
Let's see. Let me see this.
No, I mean, today was $134. And the last time...
Didn't they used to tell you how many items you got? Yeah, so 35. We bought 35 things. This is today.
Oh, is it?
We got 35 things, and those 35 things cost us $138.95. Actually, it cost us $139.31.
Well, some of those things were more expensive than others, of course, but...
the kombucha, the Ritz crackers.
Yeah, we get a few luxurious items, but they're not, but it's...
We don't get, like...
We don't buy meats and expensive
stuff
we don't
like
buy
that. Meat.
But we like avocados a lot, but they're
not even on here. They're not even on here.
Normally, I would buy, like, half dozen decent-sized avocados at about $1.50 each, and so that would be another $10 for just avocados,
So,
which is great that we have them.
139 divided by 35. That's roughly $4 for each
An
item.
average. Yeah, I mean, like a cucumber is $2.50 each.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean. Listen, I know what it takes to grow these things, but everything's relative to the situation we're in now. And these prices are only going up because the government's been jacking up the interest rates on loans. And
2 pounds of pears cost $5.78.
And charging more for oil and gas, and then everybody trickles down, right? And energy, and then, so now they're raising the interest rate again on borrowing because they make more money. And that's what they want. More money.
More money.
They want it from everybody.
Screw the people.
And so if you raise the interest rates on borrowing, then people aren't going to be able to afford to buy houses. But, so, unless they happen to have a nest egg. But to do it on credit, credit rates, going up, and
right.
Anyway, credit's not something that the next level really stands for anyway, because so in a sense they're helping us get off the credit system.
Right.
And at least that's the way I look at it, and so that we can live within our means. However, T&O did buy a house at one point, and then they regretted buying it, and they were able to sell it. But what if you buy a house and then it goes down in value, or the
Kind of
market,
like cars.
yeah, the market drops out, and right, it goes down in value, or it's just not going to sell at all
Right.
because of where it is, and because people can't get loans with a decent interest rate,
Yeah.
and so it's just like they're really putting the pressure on
Well, and
everybody.
like I saw this thing on the Daily Mail that one of the articles that was saying Warren Buffett said, Mr. Warren Buffett. I don't really know who he is, but he's like a big financial guy, right? He knows everything, right? Rich guy. And he was saying
Berkshire Hathaway,
it's
I
gonna
think
get
he's the,
well, Warren Buffett.
which is hedge fund. Yeah, he's a big financier. Of Berkshire Hathaway was
Oh,
a big investment banking group, I think.
okay. But he said it's gonna get worse.
Yeah, he knows it's going to get worse because
Yeah.
what does the government want? They want more money. I know that sounds like, but they don't want more money for yachts and to have a fourth house somewhere in China or wherever they want houses.
I don't think they want houses in China.
No, I don't think they do. What they want, I believe, is to get off the planet, to keep anybody from stealing what they want, resources and everything else on the planet, oil, and to build underground facilities so that they can take their
Goofball.
families to survive if the planet ends up heating up and killing everything on the surface,
Right.
or most of the things on, or burns up the wiring systems,
Which
the
brings
infrastructure.
us, I don't know if, whoever has Netflix or if you can see this series somewhere else. It's Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix with Graham Hancock, which Graham Hancock's a pretty cool dude. Um, and he is going through ancient megalithic structures, um, and just kind of posing the theory that because a lot of archaeology, mainstream archaeology, says that a lot of these structures were built within the last like couple thousand years or whatever, or in that hunter gatherers, basically primates, made these structures, which when you look at them is it's impossible for somebody that hadn't even discovered fire yet to build these huge monolithic structures like Gobli Tepe. It's in Turkey, but also in Turkey are which I just had Sawyer watch. It's episode 7 of that series. There's 8. An underground city basically called Darienkuyu. Direnkuyu. Darienkuyu. And it's in the Cappadocia region of Turkey, which I don't know if that's where all the earthquakes have been hitting or not. But there's over 200 underground structures in that area of Turkey. And most archaeologists, mainstream archaeologists, say that it's because they built it thousands and thousands of years ago to escape from invading armies. So whenever an army would come across the mountains, they would, these people that there weren't any settlements anywhere in the area, so that doesn't really kind of jive. But supposedly they would go and hide in this underground city that can hold up to 20,000 people in Darienkuyu, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
But
good.
Graham Hancock talks about how it's more likely that it was built to escape from something above ground, not other people, but the frickin' Ice Age. That it was basically Noah's Ark but underground. And it seems like that seems to me the most plausible reason for a lot of those structures, and a lot of them worn in symbols left behind of feathered serpents coming out of the sky and wreaking, all this destruction. Like the Younger Dryas period, which was caused by a series of comets hitting the Earth. There's several impact sites. I think it's called the Channel Badlands in Washington. There's a huge impact crater site that doesn't look like that, and modern geologists and archaeologists, whoever all those people are, say that they don't agree that it is, but if you just look at it, you can see that it is. That whole area was like formed by massive upheaval, a great flood that came within a matter of weeks, not gradually over time, all sparked by comets, a series of them hitting the earth way, way back when. And that's what wiped out all these ancient civilizations that made the pyramids, that made Darien Kuyu, that made all the, Gobli Tepe, all these ancient structures that there's no writing around to say what they were made for. A lot of people, myself included, when I first started looking at the pyramids, you see all the other stuff in Egypt that's just covered in hieroglyphs. There are no hieroglyphs in the pyramids. None. And then people bring up, there's this one that says Khufu or Khafre. That's graffiti that was put by an archaeologist to say, I found this and it was made by this guy. There's no other hieroglyph. There's none. So they're not tombs.
But tell them a little bit about the structure of these underground modules.
Yeah, that's what they look like. I mean, I highly recommend the episode, and I took screenshots and sent them to Sawyer, but because they did like a side view of it, and they go down like 8 meters, which I don't know how much that is, or maybe 85 meters or something.
They said like 7 levels, right?
There was 11 levels,
11
actually,
levels.
If not more. Maybe there was more. And it looks like an ant farm for people. And they're like individual rooms, and then there's a wine cellar. There's stables near the front. There's doors, these big, huge stone doors. All of this stuff is carved with hand axes.
Because the stone
It was so soft.
so soft.
So the theory that they were made for people to escape into and fend off invading armies doesn't make sense, because the invading armies, first off, they could have just sealed off the entrances and waited for everybody to die of starvation. You're not ever going to have enough food if somebody besieges you, right? That's what they would do with castles, right? They'd besiege the castle and somebody would have to get out. But, I mean, potentially that is possible, though, because one of the really cool things about these cities, these underground cities, about 200 of them, some of them are only 2 levels. Most of them, I think 36 or 35 of them were over 7 levels. They're connected by tunnels. One that goes 5 miles.
200 of these groups of underground living quarters are connected by tunnels underground.
They're all connected together.
And that's
Turkey.
over hundreds of miles, right?
Yeah. It was like 400 miles, I believe.
Yeah.
400-mile area.
Yeah.
Well, Darien Kuyu itself is over 4 kilometers, which I don't know what kilometers
It's
are.
about 2 miles, 2.2 miles
So
is a kilometer.
So that's even bigger than what I thought.
Yeah, 400 would be like 800 or 1,000 miles.
Well, they said it was 4
miles.
kilometers for Darien Kuyu itself.
Oh, that's how big it was, 4 kilometers. So
Yeah.
that would be like 8 miles.
It's an
8.5 miles.
incredible undertaking that these people, and
not down, but I guess the
whole
area.
Yes, the whole area spread out, and it goes all the way down to the water table. So they would have water. They had over 5,000, I think it said, ventilation shafts.
Right, so they could have fires
So
in
they
each
could have
module
fires.
connected by a ventilation shaft so that they could breathe.
Amazing.
And have exhaust.
Amazing.
So these weren't...
they weren't hunter-gatherers.
Right. These were people that had some foresight onto things that they could
Exactly.
do.
They were told. That's what the myth says, that they were told to go underground.
Right. And that could have been the space aliens doing it by the next level's instigation.
To save these people.
Because the space alien in the mythology that went with that, it was about, they were given like instructions to get 2 of each animal and
all of the seeds that
just
they
like
could
the Noah's
find.
Ark kind of story.
Yeah, it was exactly like that, but underground.
But underground. And so
Yahweh was the name of the king that got those instructions to do that.
Yahweh instead of Yahweh, huh? Interesting. Yeah, it's and you know what? There's something about this that I don't think I talked to you about. But in my study of the Book of Revelation, there's the talk of there's 2 parts to it. One is the talk about Armageddon, which is in, I believe it's chapter 16, where it talks about Armageddon. That when you look up what Armageddon means, it has to do with an area of the world that I think is in that Syria area or Palestine area, right in the Middle East area over there. Where there were big battles that took place.
Lots of battles.
Armageddon. I mean, not the arm part. I forgot what the arm part means, but and then the other thing that came with that Armageddon was that there was mention of Gog and Magog. And it's spelled G-O-G and M-A-G-O-G.
Yeah,
now,
heard of that.
Magog, I think, represents the people who lived in the area of the country, of the world, that was called Gog. Okay? And that area of the world is Turkey right now. It's by the Dead Sea, I think, or I'm not sure. I think it's near the Dead Sea. But... And it was talking about armies descending on that area again. Let's see. Well, no, the armies that were okay, so the battle. Well, first of all, Doe clarified that what Armageddon is, what that really means. It's a battle for souls.
Yeah.
It's not a battle of people with weapons. Even though that actually takes place as well, because humans are essentially being manipulated by the space aliens, who are the ones that were talked about as the fallen angels. So they have an interest in humans developing technology so that they can get off the planet, so they can build spacecrafts, so they can hybridize new physical vehicles, and so they can steal souls to add to their crews.
Well, and I think that like Darian Kuyu, like you've mentioned several times, that they want to build spacecrafts, get off the planet, or underground cities.
Right.
So Darian Kuyu sounds like it was the space aliens, because that was the recycling of that civilization.
Yes, that's what it sounds like. And
entire people were just vanished.
Now, many Christians
during the Younger Dryas
think that Jesus is coming back to what was called the Holy Land, the Middle East. Okay, and they miss the parts of what Jesus said, that when he said that he wasn't coming back to Jerusalem, because every time the next level sent a prophet, they killed him. And so he says, you're going to be left desolate. And in other words, a wasteland.
What's the matter, Kitty?
It's going to be made into a wasteland. And what do we see happening in Turkey and Syria? The basket, the base, we see all these earthquakes happening. And now that's not punishing the people there, okay? They're getting their lessons in a very difficult way. But they can each of them can have a relationship with the next level and can ask help from the next level. And any of the spirits of the vehicles that die in those earthquakes, the next level can take those spirits and put them on ice for a future civilization so that they can continue their growth if they have grown to a degree that the next level feels like is valuable. It's like a farmer going into the field and deciding, okay, well, I'm going to take the fruit that come from this field, the vegetables, the fruit, right, whatever it is, and then we're going to use, and that's going to become of service to the kingdom, and then what's left behind from that is potentially what can be saved for other purposes of the generation of future members of the next level, in the case that we're in the context that we're talking about. And that would include the seeds, the chaff of the wheat, the wheat that's given to the animals, and and goes back into the earth to provide fertilizer for the next crop. And in that context, then the spirits could be seen, the ones that aren't ready to be saved for a future experiment towards graduation, that can be seen as having in the environment of the earth, having certain knowledge that humans can tap on when they're the humans' bodies are growing, okay, and the next level is seeing to it that they have enough information that if they tap on it to try to solve problems and create the wheel and fire. And then keep their technology growing so that they have more facilities and they can live more healthily and everything. That's the way that the next level ends up doing everything. And at the same time, some of that, according to what I got from T&O, which wasn't direct about this, I'm not being an excellent expression of what they said, but the images that I got from them, what they did say was that the lower forces, the space aliens, they know how the garden grows. They said that clearly a number of times.
They know how souls are.
They know that souls exist. They know that spirits exist.
Well, and how to move out of a vehicle into another vehicle and maintain their memory.
Yes. Right.
Now, that brings up, I haven't talked to you about this, but I started reading because we listened to a tape and Doe was talking again about how he wanted the group to read, the class to read War in the Heaven by Kyle Griffiths. So I started reading it a little bit again today. Something in here, there's this book called The Genesis Mystery. The Genesis Mystery was written, I think, by the same person who wrote, what the hell is that book Darwin wrote?
Oh,
Evolution
Evolution
of the Species.
Yeah, I guess that's.
But this guy was his co-author, The Origin of Species. No, Goodman shows that Alfred Russel Wallace, who was the co-author of The Origin of Species along with Charles Darwin. Anyway, Goodman is the guy that wrote the Genesis Mystery. So there are three possible sources of who helped humans come onto this planet, or whatever. It could have been God, spacemen, or hitchhiking spirits. So the hitchhiking spirits, yeah, you're going to like this. And they're called interveners. Some take the interveners to have been spirits from other realities visiting Earth to experience its unique properties. As this theory goes, these visiting spirits hitched a ride with an existing hominids to enjoy the physical pleasures of wine, women, and song. After many nights of too much reveling,
yeah.
they soon found themselves stuck within these physical vehicles. The only release was through death. But once addicted, many insisted on returning through reincarnation for just one and then another and yet another ride. Realizing that there was no way out of this vicious circle, some of the spirits set to work altering their hominid hosts to create better physical vehicles through which they could eventually escape the seductive pull of earthly pursuits. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, it is. It sounds like they're talking about space aliens.
Exactly.
Because the space aliens, they originally had dense physical bodies. But then when those physical bodies died, even though they lasted a lot longer than human bodies, Doe said, when they died, they wanted new physical bodies to operate. And so they started hybridizing.
Well, it almost
human.
Like this guy, when Doe said that this book would, turn your heads inside and out,
Mm-hmm.
that you'd have to, readjust them because not everything's true. He's had this all channeled through his spirit guides, which are probably space aliens. And maybe next level, I don't know, but Doe thought it was valid enough to have you guys read it.
Right.
But he was told that they got stuck in those vehicles. Whether they wanted to be there or not, they had to be there. Like they almost fuse with the human vehicle.
Well, I imagine that's like being addicted to something. You know what I mean?
Well, the only way they could escape it was death. The only way they could escape that vehicle was death. And get back to their spirit form, which is what is truly incarnated. Reincarnated, rather. But that's why reincarnation isn't true, right? Because it's the same spirit going into different physical vehicles. So the spirit is the same. So it's not I guess it is a reincarnation of that same spirit, but that spirit doesn't remember.
Right.
Most of the time.
Right. It's not the same it's not the way that the Eastern religions talk about reincarnation, to where everybody is a reincarnated soul.
Mm-hmm. But then that comes to like what we were talking about last time. How many souls were here? And you even asked this in the class, and Doe was like, why do you need to know that? And you're like, I don't. No, I don't. No problem. How many souls are there, right? Like, so there's 5 billion people on the planet. That would mean, but we already know that not everybody has a soul.
Right. We didn't, at
Everybody
the
has
time, though,
spirit.
when we asked that question, we didn't know that.
Yeah, everybody has spirit.
Doe might have suspected it, but he didn't talk about it as if that he knew exactly, like he did in Doe's Final Exit. He did talk about it that way. And other things that he because T and Doe, they got information, just enough information, so that they were always one step ahead of what the students needed.
Right, instead of 100 steps ahead of you guys.
Yeah, because if they got too far ahead, we'd either be focusing on the wrong thing. Would
like how many souls are there to occupy 5 billion people?
Right. So we'd be, that's why you can hear in the tapes that, oh
my God,
that there's a number of times where T actually says, like Doe's trying to explain something that's a philosophical kind of thing, and T says, well, they don't really need to know that now. And Doe takes that as a type of correction. He recognized that was true, and he demonstrated it on the spot how he looked to his older member's mind, T. And that didn't mean that T didn't value what he had said, but it was that at that point to where she wanted to keep it on track with not going too far in that direction. And then you'll hear Doe talk about do the same thing naturally, not because he was trying to mimic T, although he was trying to mimic T, because that's what younger members do with older members. And I mean, but they don't let you mimic them like like a puppet kind of thing, because they don't need any puppets.
Or
they don't
a mockingbird.
A mockingbird.
Like Plato.
Right, it's not like that. Right, like Plato, the parrot that we had in the class.
Get your mind in your vehicle.
Right. But the desire of the student is to be exactly like their older member.
Yeah.
And anything that keeps us from wanting to be exactly like our older members is an influence of this world.
That's right.
And
that's why that tape that I was talking about with Doe saying you should constantly asking yourself, is this how my older member would do this?
Right.
Is this how my teachers would do this? Our teachers being T and Doe.
Right. So that shows you the choices that we have.
Yeah.
And this is why I say to people all the time, in all these interviews that I've given and that I'm talking about now, that it was free will. Because if you didn't employ the lesson, the tool, then you didn't grow from it. You didn't change your mind out. You didn't get rid of your human mind and then fill your mind more with the next level teachings, which is the only way that you can get into the next level, is by evacuating the mind of this vehicle by will, step by step, by not thinking about it anymore or whatever it is.
Consciously.
Not lingering on negatives, pushing through to find the positive in every circumstance, and by doing that, you're actually employing next level thinking and mind. And so even if Doe said, I brush my teeth with a small amount of toothpaste on the brush. Now, when they first gave us the task of, they didn't give us the task of brushing our teeth, actually. But somebody asked them about it. And they said, well, you should only brush your teeth, let's just settle on the most twice a day. And before that, I think Doe said in the tape recently
once a day.
that he was doing it once a day. So, but
which I was like, ew.
But Song Odie was going into the bathroom after every meal and brushing her teeth. That's how that came about. And they said that was an extreme. So, therefore, once you know the instruction from the next level, that can pertain to anything, and you choose to do otherwise when you're in that classroom, maybe all the time, I don't know, then you're choosing not to use their thinking on how they arrive at things. It doesn't really matter if that's the most efficient way of doing it from a human perspective. Maybe brushing your teeth after every meal from a human perspective has some value, but maybe it's also got some detriment. Like you can maybe damage your gums or something, because I know the food particles need to be on your gums in order to provide nutrition to the. I've heard doctors talk about this. To the gums. The gums need nutrition. And so I don't know, but I didn't hear T and O say that, but that could be an example of how you could have too much hygiene, in a sense. You know what I mean? Because we're in an environment where there's bacteria, there's all kinds of things, and our immune system grows a lot better when it's got exposure to a certain amount of things, so that it can develop the knowledge of how to live in this environment healthily.
Right. Well, that goes with we just watched War of the Worlds, the remake, and the original is the same. So I'm not giving it away, and if you haven't seen the original, then you're like 60 years behind. So I'm not giving it away, but the aliens just start dying after they're almost about to wipe out the entire civilization and use them for fertilizer, basically, is what they're doing. They've taken over the planet, and then they just start dying because they caught the common cold. They weren't used to the bacteria and things on this planet that we as humans have all gotten sick from and adapted.
I just got an image of that movie.
Yeah.
And when they got sick, it's when they came down and they were actually in the environment. I don't know this is a fact, but when they're in the environment where other humans were living at the time, and they were breathing, and so they were exposed to those particles that are, the bacterias and
like when they
whatever
came
viruses
into the house.
are there. Yeah, when they went to the house and they were looking at the things and touching things.
I think because they were also pulling humans onto their ships.
Oh, right.
And then they were, pulverizing them and, spitting them out the back as fertilizer.
But those were all going through machinery, so I don't know if that would be the same reason why they got infected. But I don't know. It's just conjecture. It doesn't make any difference.
I thought that was a great movie. You were kind of meh about it, but I liked that movie a lot.
Well, there were parts of it that I liked, and a lot of times at the time, maybe some of it seemed a little corny or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I can see value in.
We haven't talked about the movie that we really liked. Oblivion.
Oblivion, yeah.
Which we won't say. If you have was that on Netflix or Amazon Prime?
I don't remember. You did the controls on that.
I think it was Netflix. Oblivion is an excellent movie, and I think we both would highly recommend it. And we're not going to tell you anything about it, except for clearly we're on a Tom Cruise kick. That's my fault. And I don't care. I know Tom Cruise is weird and people think he's gross, whatever, as he's gotten older or whatever. Just a lot of people don't like him, and plus the Scientology thing. But I think it's interesting how Tom Cruise is in a bunch of alien movies all of a sudden. Like before he was in, romance and espionage, Mission Impossible kind of stuff. But he's been doing a lot of alien stuff, which is interesting.
Yeah, especially
think.
Since Scientology, they believe in aliens, I believe, and
I think they do.
So
yeah,
I think
Venus.
they've got some alien race or individuals from one of the races.
But we would highly recommend Oblivion, and for the first maybe 30 minutes or so, it doesn't really seem. It's just kind of like, well, this is stupid. Like Sawyer was like, so what, the purpose is this and that? Like, okay, I know how this is gonna end. Like, but it's a really good movie.
It's got some good things in it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of nice little twists.
What I enjoy the most is when I see parallels with Tiendo's teachings, and even little tiny things. It doesn't have to be big, but
it made us think.
Yeah, helps you, gives you some thoughts about things that kind of make some sense.
It doesn't go where you think it's going to go.
Right.
Which I love movies like that.
Right.
You don't have it figured out from the first, 10, 15 minutes. Like Mandy, on the other hand, we knew exactly where that was going.
I'm not remembering it right now.
Mandy with Nicolas Cage and all the blood and the Jesus cult that killed.
Oh, yeah, right. I remember that.
Oh yeah, it's all coming back like a bad dream.
Right. That was.
That movie grows on you after you watch it, I think.
Well, I don't know if it's gonna grow on me. Like a virus.
Like the aliens in War of the World caught. No.
Let me go back to.
Sorry,
the
we
chat.
said we were going to the chat and we didn't at all.
We did.
I don't think there's that much in there though.
XF said there is no more class. There was only Heaven's Gate class from 75 to 97. All that exists now are individual believers. Yeah, now, I just, for whatever it's worth, I'm not the one that decides what anybody does, of course. And so if there's a few people that get together, like Kathy and I are together, and so, to the degree that we want to serve, and act as each other's check partner in service, then that becomes a type of class. But it's not the same kind of class. But if you're learning, you're in.
Yeah, and it's hard to say we were just listening to, I think it was, I can't, like I said, I need to keep writing these tape numbers down, but we were just listening to a tape, and in the very beginning of it, Doe is talking about the I could be wrong lesson. And that did come about because of Mark. Because Mark was given a little game, which is what Doe said, a game to play. And if he played the game right, then before he said anything, he was instructed to say, I could be wrong. And actually believe it. So you wouldn't say, I could be wrong, but this is a fact. Doe said that Mark was given that game to play because he said such statements of authority. That, what Mark said was right. It was right. It was true. So to just, make such statements of authority without, saying you could be wrong, I feel there's a danger to that. We don't know if there's going to be another class, or if, like Sawyer said, people get together and maybe try to engage in an overcoming process or learn more about the information or make study groups or whatever. I think there's kind of a danger in saying absolutely, there's nothing, like Mark and Sarah told me, there's nothing to be done. You're on your own. Stop emailing us, was the vibe. And it was just kind of like, well, that's messed up. I know I want to talk to people about this because it's true. And I want other people to know. So if we all operated on it's just an individual thing, we wouldn't even be doing these live streams. We wouldn't be putting events on and meeting with people. Like, there is a community, whether Sawyer wants to admit it or not. As far as I know, there's not a group, there's not, like I just said on the Haunted City podcast, it's a lot of work starting a cult, and we're not interested in doing that at all.
No.
That's not what we're trying to do. But I do feel like if a community of people want to come together and learn as much as they can and, engage in overcoming human qualities, I don't really see a problem with that.
I don't think it's for me to decide. I think it's for the individuals that want to do something like that to decide.
Yeah. Like, I think it's like meeting with people as opposed to just talking to people on the internet is really, there's something to that.
But at the same time, I think there's a certain danger in thinking that that's the objective. In other words, let's have a commune, let's go and be celibate, and let's, take the diet that they used at what stage? I don't know. What stage?
Well, we would do all of them, right?
Well, how can you do all of them? I mean, it becomes very, very complicated.
Yeah,
about
we've already thought about it. So
if somebody's doing that and they're spending all their time on that, when are they serving? When are they spreading the information?
Well, that's what it would look like, is let's learn as much as we can and then go talk to people. Right? Like a mobile monastery.
Well, fine. There's people doing that now. And, people that are Christians, they're traveling around mobily and they're trying to share the message of Jesus, I guess. I don't know. I haven't talked to them. There's some individuals in this very camp that we're in.
I was going to go get my hair cut by them, but I don't know if they're still here or not. I wasn't going to wear the Heaven's Gate shirt.
But see, there's a difference between those that are working for Tiendo and all the other religions that have different evangelical kind of formats, in order to establish communes and monasteries and all that. And if that happens, it may happen. Okay, I don't know. But what I know is that we have the instructions to disseminate the information.
And that's what we all need to be doing if we want to be of service.
Right, and to ask though for service.
I could be wrong about that, because right, if you ask for service and you hear something else.
But I don't think you're going to hear something else that's contradictory to the things they put in the Heaven's Gate book that talk about service.
Yeah.
And so that's the guideline. The Heaven's Gate book is the guideline. And of course the audio tapes, but see, even within the audio tapes,
or the Beyond Human series,
and the Beyond Human, right, the Beyond Human series in particular, as opposed to some of the audio tapes that do expand it in all directions, and you can see that Doe was on a progression of going public, especially after T left.
Yeah,
he kept on getting instructions to examine whether to go public in this way or that way, or to these people or this group of people, according to, and he would try it. He would try a little bit of it. He'd design pamphlets, or he'd design a video crew to go out to UFO meetings, conferences, and record some of the popular people that are giving talks in those conferences, but then he didn't feel like to proceed on that any further, and so he discontinued that after a couple tries. And so he kept on doing that, and even up until 1997, he was examining having a monastery in India, and also maybe in the States, and even having a troupe that was traveling around with singing and light show, and I don't think dancing was ever involved.
I didn't hear about
Never
that.
heard about that.
I don't remember that.
And
but I remember him talking about, traveling around with a crew.
Yeah.
And putting on like a circus.
Yeah. Well,
a
no
traveling
animals,
show.
No.
And our acrobats, but there would be mental acrobats.
Mental acrobats.
I'm just kidding. Those are our words.
No,
my words.
I hear you. I got you. But right, Tiando's teachings do provide a lot of mental acrobatics to get used to. Okay, Angela Walls in Facebook says,
"Hey, girl.
Definitives can be dangerous.
Yeah.
I think it's important to be open and receptive to learning." Yes, I think we agree with that, and that's what T and Do are always open to, and they would take everything that came to them. They would watch TV, they would read books, they would give books to the students to read.
Right.
And they would have the students go watch movies, and we had all kinds of news showing, through the day. We had the broadcasts from the API coming through the screen in the days before there was internet, and cause on satellite dishes we had, and always observing, and then from those observations, Doe would think, this sounds like it's next level, because of the characteristics of it. Like, for instance, when they were talking about developing test tube babies. I think T was in a vehicle at the time when they were talking about this, and they said that to them that was a more advanced method of having babies. And that was a surprise to me, but so they weren't like sticking to any one kind of thinking without examining it and considering what they felt about it based on the content of their souls that were from the next level, from an evolutionary level above human, that had tremendous knowledge, but they only brought the knowledge they needed in order to take a classroom out of here. Classroom of souls. That's what graduates. The vehicles don't graduate. Although the vehicles can graduate. Like T said in the very beginning, you don't have to die to go to the next level. If you can what was the word they used? Metamorphosize your vehicle. If you can stimulate that to happen, then the next level can give you the final ingredient so that you can actually take that vehicle with you on board a next level spacecraft. And that was demonstrated by the older member 2,000 years ago who was using a vehicle that had the name Jesus.
And who else?
And before that, Elijah. Before that, Moses. And before that, I don't know if Moses took his vehicle with him. Well, I think they said he did.
Yeah, he disappeared on
Yeah,
the mountain.
according to the records, he disappeared. I mean, not disappeared in thin air, but he walked off. And he told people not to follow him. I think that's the way the story goes. And I don't know if anybody eventually did try to find him, but I never heard anything about that. But
and there was
T&O
one other.
felt like he left with his vehicle didn't stay here.
There was one other too.
And Enoch. But Adam didn't. Adam lost his vehicle here. Because he hadn't yet fully recovered from the mistakes he made that started the experiment. Which was all making a positive out of a negative.
Right. I kept thinking that today. Turn a negative into a positive.
It's not easy to do.
No. Sometimes it seems easy, but other times it's difficult.
Yeah. Especially when we have emotional connections and we have our history, that
Yeah.
the things that bother us and don't bother us and that trigger things that, anyway, it's a challenge for everybody to do that. There's nobody that escapes that challenge, and you wouldn't want to, because that's how we grow. We
Right.
gain strength by converting those negatives into positives.
Yeah, we do.
Like, look at the earthquakes, okay? They're negatives in the context that, people are suffering and dying.
Losing family.
And losing family members. But then
children.
They can be positives for the people that are left behind, to actually work together, to help each other more than ever before.
To rebuild.
To actually become...
or get the hell out of that
rebuild
area.
Or leave that area, yes. Good point. Because if they keep on happening, that's like a message from the next level saying, you might not want to be in this area because this place is getting recycled and looks like we're doing it here right now.
I've always had a hard time with that, like thinking about things of just like, well, why don't they just leave? Like people in Ukraine, it's like, well, why don't you just get the hell out of there? I had a hard time with that with World War II as well. I'm like, well, why didn't, like, if you saw that happening to your neighbors and, wagons coming and rounding up all of, your people, like, why wouldn't you just get the hell out of there? Like, and a lot of people did, but a lot of people didn't. So I always just, like, I struggle with that. It's like, why wouldn't you just leave? But I'm like, I've always had a nomadic personality. Like, I grew up on military bases, and every couple years it was time to move. And even before my mom met my stepdad, we were like moving a lot. So I just have that programming of it's time to move. Like, we're supposed to be here through the end of May, and I'm just like, I'm already getting squirrely. Like, even though I like it here and we're making decent money here, it's still just like I'm having a hard time working. I'm having just, I just don't want to be here.
Yeah, I think we're going to leave before that. I feel the same way. I mean, it's like...
it sucks.
I mean, well, there's a reason for it, too, I think. I don't think we're really meant to be, like, locked into one spot. I think there's a lot to do in different places in the country, and the best way that we're going to
finances plays a big part of it too. Like, we don't know if we're going to be able to make money where we go until we're there, and then it's like, crap. Like, we went to Florida and we were like, this was not a good idea. Like, shit. We just,
But see, I believe that that
we did meet.
we will find places that we'll be able to, we make our sticks, our
And
money.
we were making
for food
sticks in
and
Orlando, but
gasoline and all.
God, it was so mentally difficult there.
In Orlando?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but see, that was...
But we were making sticks there.
Yeah, but it wasn't great.
God, but we were averaging about 100 a day, right? Staying out, running every shift.
Yeah, you
God,
have to run every shift.
Awful. It was awful in Orlando.
And,
Terrible.
And of course, we were living in a place where we could do that more easily, but the traffic was so terrible. It was
well, and the orders themselves, like everything was like $2. Like you would literally decline 20 requests to get one $10 order. It was insane. Orlando was.
It's right. It's
don't recommend it.
Yeah, but it's got such a corporate.
Yeah, it was soul sucking.
Like people
there.
are like.
It was definitely soul sucking there.
On edge, I mean, they're supposed to be vacationing. A lot of them.
Everybody seems pissed. Yeah, there was. Yeah. I've never, I'm trying. Chicago, there's a lot of horn honking, but it's actually like people saying beep beep, you can go. Because I remember the first time somebody honked at me, I was like, what the hell? But then I was like, oh shit, I might get shot. I better not, But it was just the guy indicating to me, you can come on over into my lane because I had my blinker on. It was like, oh, okay. So it's like a little language of cars. I actually like driving in Chicago. I just did not like the constant fear of getting carjacked.
Yeah,
that sucks.
That doesn't sound too good to me either.
No.
I wasn't with you then, so I don't know, how we deal with it now. But I don't really want to be in a city that big.
Well, I would be scared that while I go run in to get food or vice versa, while the car's sitting there. That's the thing in Chicago. You don't stop moving. You don't stop moving. You always keep your car moving.
Yeah.
Or you go into like an area, and if you are not moving, then you need to be looking everywhere. Like everywhere. The cars passing you, the people on the street passing you, you just have to be vigilant.
Well, that's a terrible way to have to live.
Right, so like if we had to stop the car to get out to get food, and somebody sees that you left your vehicle,
yeah,
they're going to shoot the person that's in it to take your car.
Well, I mean, that's not going to happen that often. I mean,
yeah, people are getting shot all the time in carjackings there.
We went there and we went to a pizza place. We left our car by itself.
In an attended lot.
Right. Oh, that's the difference.
That's the difference.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I've been in Chicago a number of times.
And that guy's probably packing.
And I was. I guess I was in an area that was okay.
Yeah, you don't go. You don't go south. You don't go too far north. You don't go. It's like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was just north of the city center.
And that's not that bad, but.
Right. I mean, it was part of the city.
Yeah, all the gangbangers, all the car bangers, whatever you want to call them, realized, well, we can go downtown and we can go north. We can go in these nice neighborhoods because these people aren't expecting it.
Yeah.
They're expecting it in the hoods.
Right.
They're not expecting it here.
So Angela Walls says in Facebook, I think some people really cement themselves in their surroundings. I see it every day with where I live. People who can't imagine anything beyond the small town we live in. Yeah, I tend to...
I guess you get comfortable, right?
Being nomadic, I think, is more of a next level way. I mean, that was demonstrated in the classroom. We didn't stay in any one spot for more than like 6 months. In any house, even in the same town, we would be in different houses. But see, it was a little different for us because there were investigators looking for the group, or certain individuals in the group that didn't want to be found, because they were doing what they wanted to do, and they knew that the loved ones that they once had that were looking for them didn't realize that they were doing exactly what they wanted, and there was no negative to it. I know people can look at that and say, "Oh yeah, but they killed themselves, so that's negative." Well, uh, we don't, of course, talk about. I mean, there is no reason for somebody to kill themselves now, because it's a part of the program that we need our vehicles in order to learn lessons through these vehicles. And but for them to leave, to choose to leave, that was their choice, and they had been through the lesson steps of years,
Right.
for the most part, with T and with Doe, and I know what that's like because I was there for 19 years. So I know what that was like to be there and to be exercising my free will the entire time. And I know that souls are real.
Yeah, me too.
And that all the human vehicles are eventually going to perish. Okay? And so they were choosing when to leave, how to leave, instead of waiting for the vehicle to get a disease or get so old that it can't think anymore, or be killed in an accident, or by somebody's that doesn't like them, or whatever it is. They didn't want to be around for that long, although they didn't prefer to leave by their own hand either. They were willing to leave by whatever they felt led to do by their older member. Now, Doe didn't come upon that very easily at all. And T was a part of stimulating that same thinking, but it's not that obvious that she was behind that. But she was. There's no question about that. About his choices.
Yeah, he wouldn't have. Yeah,
I know the media
done
tries
any
to
of that.
portray everything in a certain way because they don't want people to think that Doe was anything beyond being this evil cult leader.
Crazy.
There was no evil in him. In fact, we all have 100 times more evil. He doesn't have any evil because any of the evil, using that word, I know it's a religious word, but what?
Is it
Yeah, right. But
good and evil? Doe didn't have any evil in him.
right. He knew his vehicle had the potential to, like it always does, to go in the opposite direction from what his older member T helped him grow to choose on his own. He knew exactly who he was, and you could say, well, how could he know that? I mean, really from outer space, that's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? But it shouldn't be ridiculous to a lot of people because a lot of people have a genetic background that's heard about this before. These vehicles aren't just stagnant. Well, they can be. Like Angela is saying in this, that if you get into a place in your head or your location or whatever, that you're just in this one mode of thinking.
Yeah.
And you don't ever look outside that, or if you do look outside it, you right away say, "Oh, that can't be true. I'm not going to go there because that's evil thinking, or that's too bizarre.
Just plain crazy."
Yeah, that's plain crazy. And sure, you can do that, but the next level keeps on doing things to keep on bringing to people's attention what they did, and what they stood for, and what they believed, and what they knew, and what they had become. And that potential to become is for every person on the planet, potentially. But it's a stepwise program. It's like 12 grades in school. And not everybody's ready to graduate at the same time. So everybody's going potentially through their own lessons. When when you're a partnership in the world and you have a divorce after you've had kids and things, that's a major lesson to go through.
Yeah.
Okay, when you lose somebody that's close to you in your family, that's a major lesson to go through. When you have a business that fails, it's a major lesson to go through. Everything that happens is potentially a lesson, and people grow their minds by dealing with these things. So for a human to have a problem and then say, well, I'm going to get rid of this problem, I'm just going to go shoot myself in the head, and so then I won't have to deal with all this negativity anymore, that's wasting their time that they were given to have these vehicles, to grow the soul in those vehicles. So anyway, I don't know if I said enough on that, maybe too much, but it's very difficult ground to cover because people can misconstrue things, and I know that as a fact because of the lawsuit that's claiming that by myself in particular in this case, by talking about this in a more widespread way than just in a little limited isolated website on the internet, they think, Mark and Sarah think that I'm stimulating an event that happened like it happened in 1997, which is no truth to that at all. And I've demonstrated that for 15 years, talking here. And so it's but they're using that like as a ploy to try to get out of finishing this lawsuit that they filed against us, because we've already surfaced a whole bunch of evidence that they have no grounds to stop us from doing anything that we want to do with the material, as long as it's not for a commercial basis. And it's not going to ever be a commercial basis. It's going to be to share T&O's information with people so that people can decide for themselves whether they see something that they want to learn about in their information. And there's a lot. There's over 1,000 audio tapes that have all kinds of knowledge in them that you're not going to find anywhere. I mean, you'll find smidgets of it in different places, but not in a concentrated form, in the way that T&O talk about things, and demonstrate. I think it's the greatest story ever told. Definitely, by far.
You don't think Mark's interview with Bardo Methodology was the greatest story ever told?
I can't believe he used that analogy. I mean, the guy is, I don't know, where he's off in space, but it's not his next level part of space.
Does her hair match up with the other side?
Yeah, I think enough, sure.
I wonder if I should do more.
Good to me. But I mean, while I'm talking about that, in this recent article that I just did a critique on my Facebook page, I posted it. It's on my blog, sawyerhg.wordpress.com.
Which may be going away, so everybody look at it.
Well, there's a lot there, and it's a lot of it's very poorly written.
Read all of it.
But some of it's, I think, decent. But I always say a lot. So if you're not into reading, then forget about it. Yeah, because I always have a lot to say, because what I was doing is I was critiquing an article that was written in the Michigan Times, I think it was. And I don't know if that's a newspaper or a magazine or what, or just an internet site. But the person that wrote the article, he named it Redefining Cult. And he used Heaven's Gate as his example. And he interviewed Mark and Sarah, the webmasters of the Heaven's Gate website, who are suing Kathy and I, and Carlin. And he interviewed them, and in one of the answers, he asked about what was TILA, which TILA is the name of the foundation that Mark and Sarah established, which whenever I write that now, I put it in quotes, because it actually stands for what T&O said was the evolutionary level above human, as the acronyms for, TILA, for that phrase. And so Mark and Sarah started a little organization called TILA Foundation.
Well, but also talk about TLA services.
Right, but originally there was a TILA services that the classroom started before they left. And I don't know if I want to say, do you want to say more about that?
No, I think that's, that Mark and Sarah tried to take over.
Right, so they started a TILA Foundation because they weren't allowed to convert it into a nonprofit in Arizona, so supposedly they...
Well, they said that the group transferred TLA services to them, but there's no evidence of that.
Right.
And they couldn't get it transferred after their exit.
Right. So there's a lot of things that were said by them that we have actually surfaced as direct lies.
Yeah, they're straight up lies.
They're straight up not telling the truth when they could tell the truth. And
yeah, the truth is much better than the fiction.
Yeah, there's really nothing to be lost with them telling the truth about all that's happened. But they don't see it that way. They think that, the end justifies the means, I guess, or something. I don't know what it is. Maybe they're just not aware of what the truth is anymore because they've been thinking about this in a certain way for so long. They're locked in, like Angela Wells was talking about.
Yeah, they're definitely set in their ways.
Yeah, and
which is their ways and not their older members' ways.
Right, and for example, when they were asked by this author of this Redefining Cult article what TILA was, part of their answer was that there's no spirituality of any kind, I think were the exact words. And then I was like NASA, without the
little angels.
What did he say?
Or did he say foolish angels?
No, he said nobody's angels, without nobody's angels. Nobody's like Nobodies, angels. That's one word, which was crazy. I don't know where he gets these ideas. It sounds like he's a writer for a comedy act. But anyway, I'm critical of him because, after all, he's attacking me for doing the work that Doe gave him to do as well as me and Kathy and anybody that wants to take on the task of sharing T and Doe's knowledge with people. Anyway, so... But when he said there is no spirituality, I just heard the tape, the audio tape that Kathy picked to play because we listened to the tapes, many times, quite a bit, and it said that, Doe said in the tape, or maybe it was in the Planet About to Be Recycled.
Yeah, I think that is what you said.
Yeah.
When you were...
You said in the tape that... it's not spiritual in the context, I'm going to be paraphrasing somewhat here. It's not spiritual in the context of being etheric. It's physical. The next level is physical. They have physical bodies. The planets out there are physical for a reason, and we can only see a few of them, but they're dense physical, and that the next level makes actual vehicles that are physical vehicles that are not human flesh designed, but they're still physical, but they can change their vibrations so that they can even not be seen by humans because humans' eyes aren't developed enough to see them, and that the souls that are growing, that are graduating into the next level, are physical in another kind of way that's more like a plasma kind of physical. Okay, but they can become more dense and more powerful, those souls, to where they can actually, like Jesus said, they can move mountains if that's the task they have to do. But and that's another discussion. But I'm not going to get into that because that's a lot of philosophizing that I have to mix in my own thoughts with it. But which is not bad to do, sometimes. But right now I want to get to this point that there is no. It's not like saying to say in an interview to tell somebody that knows next to nothing about Heaven's Gate, that there is no spirituality, is flat wrong. Because Doe said that the word spirit is actually synonymous with the word mind. And mind is information, knowledge, behaviors and ways is mind. Our actions, what we do, is a reflection of what we're built from. It's what we believe. It's what we know, and it's. I'm not just saying we. I'm saying we as any human vehicle. And Doe and T were in human vehicles, but their minds were not from those human vehicles. Their minds, and there's a lot of individuals now that are here still, that are not from, their minds are not composed of strictly what's in these vehicles. Because these vehicles are born and the mind grows in the vehicle with their experiences and all the experiences past generations through the genes is mind that is in the newborn vehicle. And then that vehicle grows based on experiences. As it's growing, that mind accumulates. It's not necessarily growth, it's accumulation. Because it's the choices that we make then that determine whether there's actual growth happening. And the growth is determined by what the next level considers to be growth. And that really amounts to outgrowing humanness. And because if we don't outgrow humanness, then we'll never evolve to becoming a member of the level above human, which is a whole nother society, a whole different society from human kingdom. Just as different, or even more different, than like the animal kingdom community and society, if you want to put it that way, with the human, compared to the human kingdom. You know, animals have their place in the human kingdom, right? They can be companions, they can be seeing eye dogs, they can be horses, you know, that are serving humans in all different ways. Okay, well, but they can't actually be humans unless those spirits are allowed by the next level to evolve into occupying a human vehicle when there's a new baby or however that happens. But then, so the process of becoming a member of the next level means getting rid of all our human behaviors and ways, but under the direction of the older member, right, who we only recognize by their mind when we are exposed to it. So like right now, well, let's say somebody was watching Doe's talk on Doe's Final Exit, and they heard what he said, and they thought, wow, that's weird, you know, that's bizarre, but there's something about it that's interesting. I'm a little curious about that. And Kathy is an excellent example of somebody that was curious and wanted to know more. And when she looked at what she could find, that was Doe talking in the Beyond Human series, the videotape series that's been available to people for many, many years on YouTube, on Heaven's Gate database, or on Vimeo.
Which Mark and Sarah have their way. It won't be available on YouTube for much longer.
Right, they would try to shut it down, even though it's been available for over 10 years.
And even though it doesn't have anything to do with us, so right, hopefully, you know, the judge won't allow that.
But by watching those videos, she realized that even though she didn't understand everything Doe was talking about in those videos, that she believed it. It made sense to her. Now that was a scary thing, I think, for her and anybody else, because who wants to be, you know, taken by a, you know, it's like you know, people on the right would say to me in so many ways that like especially people that were on the religious right, they would say, well, you can't mingle with those people over there, that are in the bar or wherever they are, because you'll be influenced by them and you'll become like them. And the same with lefties, you can't mingle with the left or the liberals, or you'll start to think like them. And heavens to Betsy, what happens if you become a liberal? That'd be like the end of the world to a lot of religious right Christians. And yet, I'm not saying that liberals are any better or worse than the religious right Christians. It's not a matter of judgment like that. But the same thing with the Heaven's Gate information. People, because the media is beat upon us that this is like an evil cult and they're going to take you over and they're going to brainwash you and you're going to go kill yourself. Yeah. Okay? That's what they want people to think. When that's not the case. That's not the case at all. It's not even there's not even a fragment of that happening here. And we've been accused of that. We've been accused that one day we're going to change our minds and we're going to say, okay, everybody, we're now speaking from Marshall Applewhite, and so you all will need to go out and kill yourselves. And that's stupidity to say that. That's not looking at any evidence. And because there is no evidence of that, and there's not going to be any evidence of that because it's not part of reality. And it wasn't part of T and Doe's reality either. Every individual that was in that group, really wanted to be there and had to prove to Doe and T that they wanted to be there. And that wasn't easy to prove because we didn't even know what we were proving. I mean, I say we didn't know, but I didn't know what I was proving exactly. I don't know if the other members...
The other students.
Right. Some of them might have been perfectly aware of that they needed to prove to T and Doe. I didn't really have that consciousness that I was trying to prove to Doe. But then some of the things I did in the group showed me that I did think that my actions were proving to the next level my allegiance.
Right.
And so I did. But see, there's a lot of things happening within these vehicles that we don't even have a clue of why they're happening necessarily, unless we start to really examine it. I mean, the scarlet world and the Luciferian, I know I hate to use the word Lucifer, but, because it's a religious word, but it's the name of an individual who actually dropped out of the next level classroom and then went against the next level to where now that individual doesn't recognize that the next level is actually an evolutionary level above the human kingdom. Thinks of them just as another space group that they're in competition with for technology.
While you were just talking about that, I had the thought about that movie that I just watched. That there's all these things that are also lies built up around the being that is Lucifer.
Right. That's
like
right.
The witches having to kiss his bumhole.
Yeah, right.
Him coming to witches' windows and, calling them out so they could, have a Black Sabbath in the forest and cavorting and with demons and that might have been on an individual kind of basis in your mind. And one of the scenes actually was an old witch that had to get drunk every night. And when she passed out in a drunken stupor, like Lucifer would take her spirit. They showed like her spirit leaving her vehicle while her vehicle was just passed out on the floor. And he put her in a nice room, a nice bed, and rained all these coins down on her. And she got to go to a party with rich people, and there was this feast. It was like all the stuff that she desired.
Like astral traveling or something.
Right, but right when, so she woke up and all these coins were all over her. and on the floor and on the bed, and so she started scooping them up and putting them in a container, but they all like went away. And then like the party, that she could see herself dancing with the people, but then when she got closer, the door was shut. When she was about to bite into the feast, that's actually when she saw herself dancing in the party, so she was distracted from feasting on all this stuff. So it was like she, even in her dream, in her astral dream, she still couldn't get the earthly stuff that she desired. Which was interesting, I thought. It was an interesting movie.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Huh.
It's called Haxan, Haxan, which means the witch. And it came out in 1922. It's a silent movie. It's got a classical music soundtrack to it, and there's parts of it that are disturbing. The main part that I found disturbing was the Inquisition, and how they called them the judges. The judges would go from town to town and basically murder people, predominantly women that were accused by other town members of being witches. A lot of that went on, and women were just massacred in these towns because people didn't like them, or they wanted their land, or just the old wise woman with the herbs that had cured your husband 100 times, but the last time he still got sick. Oh, she put a curse on him, so she was burned alive and tortured. That a small group of people can cause so much devastation, specifically to women, is what made me feel bad. And I have like programming, or in my, what was interesting, everybody knows my last name. My name is Kathy Weaver. I haven't made a secret of that. The witch in the movie, the woman that was accused of being a witch in the movie, was Maria the Weaver. So that kind of struck a chord with me. But as I've grown up and throughout my life, like I've identified as being of that persuasion of being a witch, and having vivid memories, I feel like dreams of being burned at the stake and my people being burned at the stake. So whether that's like reincarnation, or the soul that's in this vehicle, or the spirit that's in this vehicle, like had that happen, like I retain some of that, which all could just be a bunch of malarkey, a bunch of bull crap, but it affects me when I see stuff like that. And to see that the woman that was accused was Maria the Weaver, and they, like, it was just kind of like, whoa.
Yeah, really.
It kind of hit me.
I can testify that, Kathy's talked about, her
I used to cry. I used to cry when I would talk about that. Like, it would really, really affect me.
Yeah.
But I've removed my I think I maybe have more next level mind, that I don't identify with the programming of the spirit in this vehicle.
Yeah, that's the process of like if you're having a dream.
Like, I got hot just talking about that.
And the dream is negative, or if you're having thoughts and it's disturbing, then wipe it out. Just ignore it.
Right.
Cast it out of your head, because it's not you.
We've been having a lot of dreams here. A lot of dreams in this area, and even when we go down in Savannah, it's even worse. That we just have the weirdest dreams, and not like weird like you're taking Ambien, because I'm friends with that one girl that we did a show with, What the Frick, and she's on Ambien, and she has some weird frickin' dreams.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. But like, not medically induced weird dreams, but just weird stuff that we didn't.
Or recreational drug dreams, which we don't do. So.
Right, yeah, well, like, I feel like in the last couple of years of such heavy weed usage for me, it just completely suppressed my dreams. I wasn't even having any, or I wasn't remembering any of them. So that was nice, because I used to be really big on dreaming and lucid dreaming until I knew, like, what was happening when you're doing that kind of stuff. Like, you have to be really careful. Because demons walk in our dreams.
Yeah. The next level can also help us in our dreams.
Yeah.
Prepare for the next day's lessons.
Oh, but what I wanted to say was the tape that I listened to. Doe said that T had said that 95% of dreams you could just...
Yeah. Forget about.
Just push it aside. You don't... You're
Right.
you're almost engaging... This is my words, but you're almost engaging in sensuality by sitting there and, like, reliving them and trying to recall it and, like, oh, and this happened and that happened. And we talk to each other when we wake up and we tell each other some of our dreams that we remember, but a lot of times, like, I think we don't. Because it's just like...
What's the value of it?
Yeah, that was... Right. I'd rather just forget it.
Yeah.
I have to use the RC.
Angela asks, may I ask where your shirts came from?
Google. I don't remember what site it was, but it's Google. Google Heaven's Gate, what if they are right t-shirt. Like, put that all in Google. Heaven's Gate, what if they are right t-shirt. And that shirt should pop up. Because that's how I found them.
We don't make these.
Yeah, these are made much better than the ones that we made.
Yeah. Well, what Angela said was, I enjoy reading your blog, writing in general. I hope it doesn't go away before I can finish it or possibly archive it for personal use. May I ask where you get your shirts from? Yeah, I don't really think it's going to go away, but they did make that threat against us, and the judge actually has to rule on it probably in the next few days. Yeah, they need to respond to my answer for the preliminary injunction that they made a motion against me to try to put a preliminary injunction on me. And Carl Odie. And
they're coming after me after...
Yeah, they're waiting to come after Kathy, which is another whole story, but...
time they can't come at there's nothing to come after me on.
I know,
it's
bizarre.
Done any of this stuff.
It's really bizarre that Kathy's been included in the lawsuit, but it's because she's she has next level mind in her that and she's called them out on some of their garbage in their artificial support of T and Doe. And I mean, this is an example, though, of how easy it is to mutate into being against the very thing that you think that you support. And I'm not saying that Mark and Sarah are against everything about T and Doe. I'm not the judge in that regard. I mean, maybe they're doing the best they can as far as T and Doe are concerned. But to be trying to stop anybody from sharing T and Doe's information that was given to everybody as a gift, and to claim that only they have the right to the information.
And they seem to have felt that since Rakoti days.
Yeah, they've seemed to have felt that since 1998, or maybe before that.
1997.
1997.
Probably in September when they got the copyrights.
Yeah,
the T-Law Foundation.
They are so far off the track with that thinking, and it's not just an opinion to say that. We have many, many tape clips that we've gathered in case we have to bring them to court.
Well, not in case we want to bring them to court.
Yeah,
as
we want to
evidence
bring
of
this
what
to a
the
jury
group's
trial.
intentions were.
And
That's like what
because
Carloti
it's
asked.
our right to do that.
That's what Carloti asked the first, like, and that's what we've maintained too. It's like, doesn't what Doe and the crew wanted, doesn't that matter?
Right.
Like,
That doesn't seem to matter to Mark
is
and
anybody
Sarah.
thinking about that?
Right.
Like, what the hell? Like, isn't that what we're all here for? Isn't that what we're all doing here?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do here. So anyway, so
Does that matter at all?
so
But
right,
Sarah comes up with, like, Sawyer brought up tape 149, and she hit back immediately with, well, they didn't physically walk up a ramp and onto a spaceship, so everything else that Doe said in that tape, forget it. Forget about it.
and what he said, what T and Doe separately said in that tape, on three occasions, was that they expected that all the audio tapes, people would be clamoring for them or trying to find everything that they said when they were here, and that they could even grow. And another thing that they said people could even grow by listening to the tapes over and over again.
Blossoming.
Yeah, and
Yeah, he also said, getting together with people of like minds. I know that was in regards to the group, but I felt like, that was kind of talking to us as well now. Like, you want to hang out with other flowers of the same kind.
right.
And you want to blossom. You don't just want to never bloom.
And so, and also, Doe said at the end of that tape,
Excuse me.
see what they described in tape 149 was that
It's a great tape. Everybody should
they
listen
were
to
expecting that their departure would be a splash of some sort. And the way they were thinking about it, possibly being a splash, might even include actually have media groups actually photographing, videotaping the students, like all walking in a line, like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind or whatever, walking onto the spacecraft. And that might be seen, and that people would be watching it, and they would be on the TV or whatever, and they would be saying, I wonder how they did that. How did they make that spacecraft like that way? And
Right, like it was
like a Hollywood thing.
Right,
People would be wondering about it. Now, they said at the end of that tape that we don't know if this is accurate, what they were saying, but they were right. They did leave with a big splash, right? Can anybody think of making a bigger splash than the way they left? Look at how it's still in the headlines. They're making now a Hollywood movie using called The Leader, which I think it's called Leader. Is that right?
I'm not sure, but we know that the lady that was the mother in The Conjuring is the woman who's playing T, and the man that's playing Doe is the guy from Tim Blake Nelson. He's the goofy guy from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Not the really goofy, not John Turturro. That's the... I might have his last name wrong. And not George Clooney. The other guy, the short guy, which is very interesting that they picked him.
Doe is 6 foot, over 6 foot, I think.
Yeah, I don't know why that guy was cast, but it seems like some miscasting to me. But maybe, you can do all kinds of stuff, but that's going to be coming out.
Yeah, I don't look forward to that. But then again, at the same time,
it's going to put it in front of people.
It's going to put it in front of people. And there's going to be a certain amount of people that have a little chip of recognition that's maybe a little bit, out of focus at the moment, but that potentially can see it, can start to see that there was something real happening there.
Right.
And that they were even exactly who they said they were. And I mean, it might take a while for some people to come to that. And that's fine. It's not like there's no judgment here of who's better than somebody else, and because of who recognized it. And there's no group, so there's no
Trying to impress anybody.
and nobody lives off their
teacher's
laurels.
pet.
I was in the group for 19 years, but that doesn't make me ahead of anybody else. Because it's not a matter of what we remember that we experience. It's what we put into action and what we do with the information that we have, that we've been given. And if we stand in defense of Tiendo, and if we get their information out to people, those are all the ways that souls can come into these vehicles to proceed with the next step. And it doesn't mean that's going to be an easy job. I mean, right now, it's been relatively easy so far. Because, I think the next level wanted it to be not too difficult. But the lower forces are already showing signs of trying to squash this information out. They don't want people to even have freedom of religion anymore. Even though a lot of the religions are all corrupted, yes. But they also have pieces of the puzzle correctly that there is a creator of this planet. Creators of this planet. It's not one big man with a beard floating in the sky. That's ridiculous.
Road.
That's the way that some of the mythology has developed, but around this story. But it's actually a crew of individuals, a big crew, a family. They're a bigger family than any human family because they don't die, and they're totally dedicated to their tasks of providing planets, or a planet that can be a garden for the development of souls to become members of the next level with them on spacecrafts that can be as big as planets, that we can't even see them on those planets or inside those planets because the next level doesn't allow humans to see them. It's a big story. I mean, it goes on and on, but for anybody that's kind of new to this,
There's
we try to give little
lots of live streams
tidbits.
in the past. It's 12:30.
Yeah, and we're not going to go too much longer here. Let me see. Go back to the chat room and.
Sorry, we've been not attentive to that.
MW1 asked, did either of you watch the video?
No.
Which one was that again?
It's that video of that prisoner guy. We just don't have time. Sorry.
If you can, put in write up a little bit of it, of the parts you think that were interesting to you that relate to Tiendo's teachings in some way.
Basically, what we do is we have to leave the campground at we try to leave here by 4:30. It takes us an hour to get into town, and then we work until 2 a.m. usually, and then it takes an hour to get back to the campground. So we get back here at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and then Sawyer does stuff on the computer. I color if I'm not too tired, and then we eat something, and then we go to bed. And then we wake up at 2:30 by an alarm because we'd sleep later. We wake up at 2:30 and give ourselves enough time to take showers. If we have enough water, if we're in the campground, we can take showers. And then make a smoothie, and then make actual food to eat. And so from 2:30, then we're trying to get out of here by 4:35, at the latest 5:30, because we want to be in town by 6 p.m. So we literally have about 3 to 5 hours out of the day and the late night to do anything with. So we just don't have the time.
And we do that 5 to 6 days a week, depending on.
So it's not like we're, not.
So
it's just hard. Like we try to make time to like watch a movie. Like we came home the other night early at like 2:00 in the morning because we met our goal. Before then, we came home at like 2:00 in the morning. We were like, let's watch a movie. And then,
we knew we were going to be up till 5 anyway.
Right, we're usually up till 5 or
day.
6 or even 7 a.m. because sometimes I can't get to sleep. But that's laying in bed for an hour trying to go to sleep. So we just don't have time to watch things that... I don't know. Sawyer works on the computer while we're driving into town, but I don't know.
Yeah, in between waiting, I'm on the computer, especially if Kathy's driving, of course. And if I have to wait for an order, if I'm working by myself,
and I've got
I'm looking at my computer, I'm responding to people sometimes.
Yeah, we have people like messaging us, and they're like, "Why aren't you getting back to us?" It's like,
I work on documents and stuff.
Please.
And then the lawsuit, when that happens,
yeah, exactly.
We lose work because we have to make a deadline. Otherwise, we get in trouble with the court.
We were working on a documentary, but that's like off the plate for now because it's just, things are really difficult when you're trying to have to work. We are so far behind on finances. We've gotten ourselves in a mess, and that's, our fault, but it's not, I don't know.
Yeah, we have to work and just
we have to work
at all to pay our bills.
And we're not even going to be able to pay all of our bills.
And we're still supporting
our kids.
Our kids to some degree.
So
we each have kids, we don't have kids.
They're
together.
grown kids.
Yeah, but they still need some.
Yeah, I still pay.
Kathy's daughter is, she's paying for more than.
Well, I raised her.
My daughter's also paying for stuff.
Yeah, she is, and she's learning, and you got it's a different community there.
Yeah, everything's a little different in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the chat room. So we're not trying to ignore what you were suggesting there, MW109.
Yeah, we just don't have time to watch like a 30-minute interview with a prisoner. It's not something that I'm like drawn to watch. I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's see. Good evening, everyone, says David Splan.
Hello, David.
MW1 had said, I tried to hope they could relate. All right, well, we just gave you what our sense of that was. And he says, they're jealous of your attention. And, I was talking about them working Sarah now. Pulling those that don't know as left behind. Like, left behind a bit. Like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe there's some of that. I don't know. I think I don't know exactly. I mean, I do feel like I know what's going on, but I really don't want to talk to them about them anymore tonight.
I think it's nice to not talk about them.
Yeah, we can only do so much,
and we said a lot, so that was, the chats from a while.
Yeah, right, the chats from a while ago. Hello, my wonderful YouTube friends, says Old School Dave. Well, hello to you.
Hey,
You're still hanging in here. I know it's been 2 hours since some of these messages were put in here. How do you teach something with no ending?
You just do it.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
You just talk about it.
When somebody teaches, so we're not teachers, but we are putting across the teachings from T and Do. So, in a sense, if somebody's learning from what we say, then I guess we are instruments of teachers in that regard. But T and Do are the only teachers with a capital T. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and
It's their teachings that we're trying to relay to people.
yeah, if everybody could have access to the audios, then you would see like their teaching capacity, their role that they had, and all those audios, each one is multiple lessons.
So I mean, when somebody teaches math, they're teaching procedures, right? They're teaching how to do things.
The structure.
They're not teaching how that's used. So there's no ending necessarily with that. And that's the same, I think, with everything. There's not necessarily an ending.
There's just grades.
I'm not sure if I'm tuning into what your question is.
Different levels.
Yeah, I mean...
And there is the end of the age.
Yes.
There is the end of this civilization.
Yes, it will come. Whether it comes in our lifetimes of these vehicles or not, we don't know. But I think it kind of will. In terms of, well, you're going to see things escalating more and more in that direction. And yeah, unfortunately, I mean, in some ways, including ourselves, a lot of vehicles are going to die. Not by our hands, of course, and not by any other human's hand. Well, yeah, by other humans' hands, because that's what they do. They have these wars and everything, you know, and they build weapons, and they think that's logical, and they think that's like normal, that's good, you know, for them to be selling billions and billions of dollars worth of weapons to Ukraine, so that
they're not even selling them; they're just giving them.
Well, yeah, they're giving them, but the American people are. I mean, that's money that could go to the
right.
Help
we don't
the
even
people.
know where that money's coming from. Like supposedly we're in, $10 trillion of debt or something.
Right. It's a big game.
But like they're coming up with billions-dollar, war packages. It's just like what the hell.
But some of the weapons are being used on people. And for sure, the missiles and things, they're killing
the tanks,
people.
Hell yeah, they're killing thousands of Russians.
Yeah.
And thousands of Ukrainians are dying
right.
too.
And then there's the people on the right that are justifying it, and there's people on the left that are justifying it.
And the civilians are dying as well.
There really isn't the left and the right anymore, in a lot of contexts. In some ways there is, but it's kind of like.
Yeah, I think it's all pretty much one party.
All kind of deceit going on, manipulation. Yeah. It's a mess.
It's just a show.
It's a mess. But we're all used to that, right? We think that's normal. Well, the next level doesn't see it as normal.
It's just
they see it as corrupted to where that it's not worth keeping going. So what they want to do is they're deciding on providing the opportunity for souls to show their commitment to the next level, to Tiendo, because they're the representatives, the current representatives. You can talk about Jesus all you want, but that's not going to get you anywhere. Because even Jesus' teachings were corrupted. I mean, you can see that the true teachings are still in the Gospels, in the red letter edition, but the interpretation of them has been corrupted. And they're ignoring what was meant to be literal, and they're making it figurative.
Well, I was listening this one guy on Facebook, actually, I think his name is Truth Seeker, and it was interesting what he was saying about Paul, that, and that's what we've said about, like, the next level is not going to hit you upside the head. They're not going to...
Laid him at the feet of Paul. What does that tell you? Why were they doing that? Well, he was known to have sent people to prison that believed in Jesus. Now, were his scales lifted? I think whatever happened to him did open his eyes, but what actually opened his eyes? I think it was a Luciferian, space alien, fallen angel soul that came to him in a dream or a vision of some sort. And well, according to his story that he told like 3 times in the book of Acts, according to Luke, who supposedly wrote that, most of that book, that that entity told him that it was Jesus, even though what Paul didn't know, and maybe that entity didn't know, was that Jesus said that if anybody comes to you saying that they're Jesus, comes in my name, not to believe them, because there'll be false Christs and false teachers, false prophets, and many. And so they gave himself away right away.
Yeah. He sure did.
But that doesn't mean that everything Paul said was bad or wrong. But the disciples of Jesus, who had been with Jesus, they were suspicious of him.
Rightly so.
And that's why they sent one of their own with him to go back to, I forgot what city it was, because some of the members of that city had questions about what Paul was telling them. And so when he made it back to Jerusalem with whoever he was traveling with, or other people ended up going to Jerusalem, and they found out about what Paul was saying that they didn't think was on track, they sent one of their fellow disciples to be with him, and then so he went back with that person as a check partner, but then he didn't stay with him. He went off on his own again, which,
it's pretty telling.
Yeah. Oh, what did I do now? Oh, there it is.
Oh, baby.
I put that thing there again. All right, so let me go back to the chat room on YouTube. Okay, back when things would be cheaper, that would... Oh, yeah. Inflation is really bad right now, says David's plan. Mojo says it's supposed to get worse. Yep, that's what they're saying. They're preparing us for it.
Yes, they are.
They talk about it in Europe before the world wars. They had to take a wheelbarrow full of money to buy a loaf of bread. I don't know if it's going to get that bad, but I think the next level is going to kind of. I think they kind of want to keep it manageable for as long as they see that there are individuals that are...
Well, and they're cutting the emergency food stamps now, too. They're ending all the COVID regulation stuff.
Right. So some people are going to lose, like, thousands of dollars a year, I guess.
And just food. It's not actual... Yeah, it's not actually money. It's food.
Which
so.
we don't get food stamps. I have in the past.
I have too with my daughter, but we don't live anywhere, so where would we get food stamps from?
I don't know. I wish we could somehow do that, because we could use the help.
Yeah, we could. I think a lot of people are going to be in that position if they aren't already. That it's. I just saw this thing where Elon Musk was talking about artificial intelligence and how it's, exponentially smarter than humans already. And you shouldn't make a technology that's smarter than you. Like, that's not really good thinking. But
what he considers to be smarts, though, I don't necessarily consider to be smarts. I'll have to watch that video on YouTube, because I know I saw his advertisement of it. And it says, you need to know this now, or something like that.
Right, yeah, that's the one that I watched.
Yeah, I haven't watched it.
Well, I actually didn't watch it. I just read the transcript.
Well, that might be better, faster.
Yeah, well, he has a weird way of talking. There's a lot of ums and...
Yeah.
Not too many, but, like, he kind of... He, like, says the same thing twice before he gets out what he's actually saying. But somebody that's working with artificial intelligence, like, he's trying to do the Neuralink thing. And that's his justification, is that he's trying to make humans on the same level as the artificial intelligence, so they can't take over. So they can't decide, like, he equates it to primitive man to the human that came after that. So, like, primitive man went away. He wasn't around anymore. New man stayed. So that is an extermination of another species.
Well, the way T&O talked about that very briefly, my memory is that the next level took out the missing link between what we're calling primitive man and modern man.
Right, but I think we can both agree that those two species of hominid, human, were on the planet existing at the same time. The people that built...
I guess so.
The people that built Darien Kuyu were on the planet at the same time that primitive man was here. That's why they're saying primitive man built these huge, structures.
Yeah, but what does
because
that mean?
There's no
primitive,
evidence. I'm talking about cavemen.
I know, but
that didn't even have fire yet.
Well, see, I don't believe that.
Right. Nobody believes it except for archaeologists. It's the weirdest thing ever. Because that's what they came out with in the beginning.
Not possible that there could be beings.
Because there's no evidence of this ever civilization either. They're just gone. There's no writing.
The previous civilization?
Yeah, like the people who built the pyramids.
Well, we don't know when they were actually built, right? There's no carbon dating on them.
There is dating on them, just like the Sphinx. There is dating on it. You can date it by the erosion levels before the Ice Age. All these ancient structures.
Which Ice Age? Because there were several.
Like what, 10,000 years ago? Or no, not 10,000 years ago. It's 10,000 BC.
That's right. That's 12,000 years ago.
Yeah, so it's right around. It's right when the Ice Age happened that all these people just vanished. After all these cataclysmic events on Earth.
Yeah, but those thought that there was possibly many civilizations before the last one.
I think there was too.
So it might go back to, it might be talking about people
that built those structures and then the other people used
billions
them.
of years ago on this planet, by the standard of time on this planet. So, Tiendo said that there were life forms that were human equivalents on planets where they didn't have a Luciferian presence and they were living. But who's to say what degree of technology they develop? You don't have to have a Luciferian presence to develop technology. The next level can help people with technology.
Well, we know that the people that built the pyramids had technology enough to chart the stars.
Right.
And the people that built the structures on Malta, which are all aligned to Sirius.
Well, see...
They built different ones as that star was moving through the heavens.
Right. Well, that's not necessarily that
over generations
difficult of a technology to have, because you can see the stars and you can track them.
But we don't build anything nowadays that aligns to the stars. There's hardly, like we don't care about. No one looks up anymore.
Right, but that doesn't mean that those people that did that were primitive.
They weren't. That's my point.
Oh.
They were not primitive.
Right.
They had advanced technology.
Well, Doe said that he didn't know whether the technology got to a place in a previous civilization to where they got to Mars.
Like Serpent Mound is viewable from off the ground. There's a lot of structures.
Well, right. So the Nazca line.
Exactly. You can only see them really for what they are.
But that could just be the previous civilization. It doesn't have to be 10 civilizations ago.
I'm not saying that.
Right? And that can be the space aliens doing that. And just basically getting humans to build them runways.
The Nazca lines aren't runways.
Well, that's what they kind of look like.
There's one runway. I could be wrong about that, but there's a spider.
Right.
There's a hummingbird. Those aren't runways.
Well, those might be the same thing as these crop circles.
There's a man that has like a helmet on his head that looks like a spaceman.
Right.
And then there's one, long wide strip that does look like a runway. But the others are shapes.
Well, even in this current civilization, there's evidence through the Book of Enoch that the space aliens were teaching humans to use herbs and things before the next level wanted them to have that experience. And so that was part of how they went wrong. They went off track from their older members' instructions. And there's reasons why the next level does that. They're actually trying to educate people in a program. I can talk about that quite a bit, I think, from my understanding, but I might not be right about it. But I guess what I'm saying is that it doesn't have to be a long time ago necessarily. And the technology, where it comes from and who's got it and who's actually helping with the building of things, in what capacity, I don't know. I just don't know how to think about whether, well, let's say one of the space aliens had a spacecraft that could lift those big rocks and actually put them into place. And all the people had to do was carve them to a certain size. And they had a mold for it, that they built around. They measured. They have ways of measuring. So they, were able to build these big rocks and then...
Well, there are theories, like there's, stuff in the Amazon. There's a site that the guy that was researching the Philadelphia experiment, he had gone and worked on it, and he was proposing that these structures were levitated into place.
Well, I was having that thought as you were describing that. I was thinking, I wonder if they were levitated into place. Now, how can you explain levitation? Well, the next level can be invisible, right? I mean, we know that from Tiendo's teachings, and we know that also from ufology, that there were and even from the Jesus experience, that was depicted that all of a sudden he showed up in the upper room after he had resurrected from
and that he walked on water as well.
And that he walked on water, so he could defy gravity. Okay, and there were a number of, according to the book of the Gospel of John, Jesus demonstrated a lot of things that he didn't take the time to write down, I guess. I don't know why, but
maybe because he was being murdered.
Well, he was banished to the island of Pathos.
Yeah.
That's where he wrote but I don't know if that was the same John, but maybe it was, because that was
I thought it was a different John that wrote Revelations besides John the Baptist.
Well, that's...
Because John the Baptist...
No, not John the Baptist. I'm talking about John, disciple John.
Oh. John the Baptist's head was cut off by Salome, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, she didn't actually do it, but she said that she wanted his head on a platter.
Which, I was listening to this Christian on the radio on the way back from the store today, and he said something that was interesting to me. He said he read from the part of Scripture, in the records, that Jesus said that John the Baptist was the greatest person born from women. I thought, wait a minute, I thought Jesus was born from Mary, even though it was a hybridized birth.
It was an immaculate conception.
Well, Tiendo thought that it was the next level, artificially did something to Jesus' vehicle so that he could be in tune with his older member doing that task, because he wasn't a kind of primitive vehicle compared to
right. What the soul was.
Primitive, I think, kind of means like we're primitive. I think we're primitive because we can't conceive of a lot of things that are reality. We can't actually say, okay, I know for a fact that there's a spirit standing right next to me, and I can prove it by this mathematical equation and by this video footage and by this audio footage and oscilloscope and all that. We don't know how to do that. We don't know how to measure those entities. But people have seen them. I've seen them. Kathy's seen them. I've felt them. Kathy's felt them, which is different from seeing them. and that was before. That was after I was part of the group, not in the group even. It was after I left the group that I had those experiences. Well, Kathy's been having those experiences for a big part of her life, and so are we primitive because we aren't aware of what exists around us all the time? I think yes. I think we are. But let's say people in the past, thousands of years ago, were perfectly aware that there were spirits around. Well, now it's a big question, right? You can go to the halls of Harvard and Yale and start polling people. Does that exist? And they would say, a lot of people would say, oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But people in the past
What?
that are supposed to be less technology show it like they said in the records in the Gospels. It said that when Jesus was crucified, the spirits came out of the graves and were circulating among the people. And they were, how did they know that? Or was that maybe just an idea? Jesus was aware that there were spirits that existed. He talked about them as if they were real. And so T said that we are not able to see what exists because we haven't raised our vibrations high enough to see what exists. And she gave us an eye exercise on how to expand our ability to see more, is the way she described it. And that was to focus on an object that you can clearly see in the distance and try to make it so that you're staring at that object. That's almost the only thing in your eyesight. And then expand your vision so that you see the peripheral vision equally with that object. And then go back and do it again, back and forth, doing that with your eyes. That's the way I remember it. And that would help you see more of what exists. Now, I don't know if that also means being able to interpret. I think that's a big part of it. Like Tiendo said in one of the last tapes, that humans can see things with their eyes, but they don't know how to interpret it, so they don't actually think they saw it. I'm not saying it's the best way to say it.
Well, that kind of brings to mind the War of the Worlds movie that we watched. Like in the very beginning with the lightning coming down and Tom Cruise's character was laughing and trying to joke and let's go watch the storm and isn't it fun, isn't it cool? And his daughter was like, I want to go inside. I want to go inside. I want to go inside. This is not right.
Right, the brain is getting so...
Yeah, and he just...
Good point.
A lot of times, in that movie, in the beginning of it, he just had he's such a good actor, I don't care what anybody says.
He is. He really is convincing about whatever he does.
Yeah, a look of, befuddlement. There's a scene where, this ship is rising up out of the ground, and they're all standing around it, and the ground's cracking, and they're just it's a whole crowd of people, and they're just not comprehending what is happening, what they're seeing. And then as the ship rises up and starts, murdering them, it's they all start running, and he just has this look on his face of just total disbelief, just can't comprehend what is happening. When he gets back home and the kids are like, what's going on out there? What is all that stuff all on you? It's dead people on him that were vaporized. They're just he just couldn't even find the words to say to them what was going on. He was just we're leaving this house in 10 minutes, pack all the food, get your suitcase, we're going. And, then that all happened very quickly, and then they're going, and the kids still don't know what's going on.
Yeah. But they said some things were going on because of the electrical things that were happening. And
right. There was an electromagnetic pulse that took out all the electronics and
it was actually
all
a pretty
cars.
good movie, actually.
I'm telling you, it was really good. I really like that
I'm
movie
sometimes
a lot.
a little dense, I guess, when it comes to realizing what they're,
Well, and I told you that movie affected me so much the first time I watched it because Dakota Fanning, who's the child actress that's in it, well, she's cute as a button. She's a full-grown adult now, but she was the same age as my daughter. So I was like feeling like I would have been Tom Cruise, and that's, and like, would I have gotten as far as they did, and, would I have, you know,
survived all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a good putting yourself in that position. Like it really freaked me out, actually.
But speaking about, seeing things, that things exist that we can't see, Tiendo at one point told us that the next level could have a spacecraft right on top of the house we were living in. And that members of the next level could actually be in the house, in that spacecraft. And someone asked them, well, would we bump into them or something like that? And they said, well, they know how to stay out of your way. But they are physical. They have physical bodies that we can't see because we haven't raised our vibrations to the vibration that they have at the moment.
Well, and who was it later on in '96, I believe it was, when they were recounting the dreams that they had had. I can't remember who the bunkmates were. And they saw next level members like actually going from bunk to bunk and doing, like monitoring the students or whatever they were doing.
Yeah, that was in Rio's book, which I think that was almost the best part of the whole book. I mean, a few good.
Well, it's
good
in a
spots
tape
in
as well. We listened to it.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. It's in a tape as well.
From 1995?
I thought it was 96.
Oh, 6 maybe it was. Okay, because I wasn't in the class then, so I want to hear that again.
Because that's why I kept arguing with you about dreams, and that they were more important than, that there was a possibility that maybe we could talk to Tiendo in our dreams if we like honed that skill or whatever. Because in the latter part of it,
Can we go back to that tape somehow?
Yeah.
I got to hear that again.
I can look through my notes.
I don't know why I didn't tune into that part. But, or maybe you heard it when I was not around.
No, we listened, because when we first got together, you wanted to listen to all the tapes that had happened after you were gone.
Oh, it was way back then?
Yeah.
Oh. Maybe I was stoned.
We probably both were stoned.
I was getting stoned in those days.
Yeah, we were both getting high.
So, because I don't know why I wouldn't remember that.
And we were both taking notes while we were listening to them.
Okay, well, I want to hear that again because the only way I remember it is from Rio's book, Beyond Human Mind.
And somebody had a dream that T was there as well. And that other members of the group that had been in the group were in her dream as well.
Oh, Annie Odie had that. Anal Odie.
Anna Lodi?
Anna Lodi. She changed her name from Annie Odie to Anna Lodi or Anna Lodi. I'm not sure. But, yeah, she was one of the persons that had a dream that they were telling about.
Yeah, and I believe there were two others.
Was that the G-tone was part of that too?
I think so, yes.
Yeah,
so that was one of the last tapes.
I know there was parts of that tape that I didn't tune into very well.
And it was hard to hear as well.
It was hard to hear, yeah.
But now that we've got it playing through the RV, we know how to manipulate the sound to make it louder.
Yeah, so let's listen to that again. Yeah, for sure. But what Rio said, if I remember his book correctly, which I put in my book, by the way, so people that don't have access to Rio's book, because it's apparently selling for a lot of money on eBay, and
because there's not many copies of it. It was a limited publishing.
Yeah, I mean, so you can go on my blog, sawyerhg.wordpress.com, and type in the search bar Rio, R-I-O, except that might bring up a whole bunch of stuff. Let's see.
Or you could just buy Sawyer's book.
Well, but searching for it's going to be hard because my book doesn't provide an index, so it's going to be hard to find.
Right, an index would be almost
Yeah,
impossible.
but if you search for
book.
Neody, Neody, I think that'll bring up a unique locations within the documents that are posted on my blog. That my whole book is posted on the blog. It's big. It's a lot. It's a lot of posts. But there's an index that has all the posts, and so you can. I think the search will let you go through that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
you could put Neody and dream. Maybe you can use those keywords, Neody.
If you know how to search that way, I don't know if it's that sophisticated of a search in that WordPress, but
well, sometimes you can like put a comma or a semicolon, and it'll look for those two words.
Okay, I haven't tried that.
I don't know about WordPress.
With that blog,
yeah,
so
I don't know about
I know
WordPress.
there's different ways of doing that. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because you can do that on Google
systems.
too.
Yeah, I just haven't researched it on. But yeah, if you
and you can do that on Wikipedia as well, which is kind of like WordPress.
Right.
As far as how it's set up, isn't it?
I
don't know. I haven't explored WordPress that much at all.
Right. So anyway, the way he described it was that one morning he woke up and he said that people were walking around the craft with big smiles on their faces. I mean, not that we didn't have smiles all the time, kind of, but not that blatant. You know, you weren't supposed to be unnaturally smiling. Anyway, but and that he that Doe ended up coming. I guess Doe had quarters in that same place that they were living. I'm not sure where it was. I think it was Tucson, which Doe called Tucson. Yeah, and Doe came out of his quarters and held a little meeting and said that it appears that some next level members visited some students last night, and that they were seeing two members of the next level described. Well, then Rio actually described them because he felt like he had a dream of them, and there were two other individuals besides Rio. So 6 individuals totally witnessed something. And Rio thought of it as a dream, and the other 3 felt like they were awake. They were going to the restroom, actually. We call it the BC, the bath chamber. And they saw the 2 individuals cross the hallway going into another room. And then another class member saw those 2 individuals standing over, I think, Sam Odie in her bunk, or maybe Sam Odie saw them standing over right next to someone else in their bunk. I think it was actually, I forget who it was, but maybe I'll go back and look at it again so I get the story better. And that someone else saw the 2 individuals in another setting, but the Rio's dream he told to Doe. And Doe said that he felt like he saw them too, because maybe he saw them standing by a bunk in his rest chamber, and that's all he remembered. But he described them as phosphorescent, bluish, if I remember correctly, and about the size of like 3.5, 4 feet tall, and so they looked like boys. No hair or any features like that, of human features. Anyway, and Doe said that he felt like Neo was told to go back to sleep when he woke up and saw that. And so that's why he thinks of it as being a dream. And that was what Doe felt about it, if I remember correctly. And I don't know about what the other people said about the dream. Or so we'll listen to that tape and we'll give her updated report.
Yeah, because I'm not sure if that's where I read that or if it was in the tape, but I thought I remembered a woman talking about it. And that she had seen
I remember dreams being talked about.
next level members in the craft hovering,
Yeah.
doing something
I bet that was
with
that
the
same event.
students.
You know what? I can remember that, but I don't remember the details of it because I couldn't hear her very well.
Right, yeah, it was very in the background,
Yeah, and
unfortunately.
it might have been the exact same thing, and I didn't make the connection that that's what we were talking about. I thought it was just talking about
Because
dream
maybe
that
they
they had.
recorded that meeting.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, that's interesting. So, in a sense, then someone could say that the way that Jesus was visited on the what was called the Transfiguration Mount, which, by the way, the word transfiguration is actually the Greek word metamorphose, which sounds an awful like metamorphosis, doesn't it? I mean, a lot of our words in English come from the Greek or Latin, for the most part. And so that was interesting to me. But what Jesus said happened then, or actually the disciples described, I don't think it was many Jesus words in that part, so it might not be totally accurate, was that they were not, that Jesus took John, James, and Peter up into a mountain. And when they got up to the near the top of the mountain, they were visited by two beings that were they were covered with light, but those three disciples felt like it was John the Baptist and no wait.
Yeah, it wouldn't be John the Baptist because he
No,
hadn't been.
Moses and Elijah is who they thought they were.
Uh-huh.
That's why Christians think that
They were
the
taken
two
up.
witnesses were going to be Moses and Elijah.
Oh.
And isn't it interesting that one of the witnesses was Moses and Elijah, both, because it was Doe, who was previously Moses and Elijah and Jesus.
Same soul.
Yeah, so they were picking up on that. But I always wondered if, since those vehicles were taken, if they actually brought those vehicles back, and so that those individuals would get that thought, because they would be vibrating that that's who they are. And so they would get the transference of thought that that's who they were, because Jesus didn't deny that it was them. But all he said was, don't tell anybody about it until I've risen. Is what Jesus said about it. I'm not sure why he said that. But then also Jesus was visited at the same time by somebody who said vocally, audibly, this is my son who I am well pleased with. And so it's like the students were given some proof, and also what was told to Jesus at that time was that he had to lay down his life. He was going to turn himself in. And he knew that if he turned himself in, he would be killed. So he was committing suicide, actually, because he knew that that's what was going to happen. He even said it in John's book, in as a red letter part of it.
Now, do you want to get to the
No
chat?
man takes it from me. I have the power to lay it down, and I have the power to take it up because I'm going to my Father.
You want to get through the chat?
Yeah.
Because I'm
Yeah.
winding down.
Cub Doggy's here, said hello.
Hello!
Better than Netflix, says MW1 Online. Life under the sea isn't that popular. Right, unless you have a really good spacecraft. They do have cities under the sea, I think, facilities. And submarines can be very, Taylor Smith says, in the chat room. Hi, you two, Kathy and Sawyer. Hi, chat. So glad to catch this live while it's live. Oh, well, cool. Glad to have you. Roz Williams says, Scholars Society says hello.
Hey.
Hello to you.
Hello.
Piss says, howdy gang, what's Kathy working on tonight?
Oh, probably asked that a long time ago.
Yeah, he's probably not
This.
here now.
This is what I'm working on.
It's a goddess.
Well, she's a fairy.
A fairy. A very nice
I only
person.
have half. I'm all on the wrong side. I have a lot to
She's
do more
got
of the.
very nice hair. Very colorful
It's coming
hair.
along. It's coming along.
Yeah, Kathy's doing a good job on that hair. It's really got its uniqueness to it. Be hard to color it that way, right?
It
All those
was.
different shades and stuff.
It was a little challenge. I don't know if I'm still quite done with it.
Then MW1 Online says, beginning of the world and end. Why is there always a spin above the clouds? Do you believe so easily war in heaven? Yeah, because the war in heaven actually represents a war for souls in outer space. And the heavens are actually, in the Greek word, heaven means elevated areas above the earth. And the airwaves above the earth is where the discarnate world circulates. It's where the space aliens do some circulation, and it's where those would be the lower heavens. And there's also all kinds of spiritual people that talk about, and the Jewish people talk about there being three heavens, and the top heaven is where the next level God is, which is next level members. So yeah, I do believe that that's all reality. But it's not reality in the context of religious teachings that don't know anything about what heaven really is. They think that it's spirits floating around on clouds. That's the illusion part. When you die, you don't go to heaven. You could be taken to somebody's heaven, but it can be a space alien part of heaven, which is the lower heaven. Or you can just be in spirit form, circulating around the earth and everything you knew when you died, and you can think that you're in heaven, but you're not. You're just out of your body, and you can't grow anymore if you're out of your body. So there's no reason to go into that. Some people think that that's a better place to be and they look forward to dying because being outside the body, they're not going to be troubled by the problems of the body. But they won't also be growing anymore either. Next level members, when they're saved from being in a body, then they're brought back to the human experience in some way, during some civilization, to have a new experience with another physical body, so that they can learn more lessons. The human kingdom was designed to be a lesson ground. Okay, I'll move on. Roz Williams Scholar Society says meow. So we've got another kitty over there. And old school Dave says piss. Roz Williams says meow again. Piss says can't wait to see that kitty. Nuggo says peace on you too. Praying for the cessation of suffering at this time.
Thank you. We need
Well,
that.
thank you. Appreciate that. Although, like he says, I'll read the next comment from Nuggo. Buddhism envisions rebirth as a result of karma. One life arises as a result of the previous, but there is no soul or essential inherent self that incarnates from one body to another. Well, I'm not enough of a Buddhist student to know the basis for what you're saying in this regard, so I trust that you know what you're talking about. But Buddhism was, according to Do, kind of like the equivalent of Christianity in a different experiment. And like Hinduism was like equivalent of Judaism. So Judeo-Christian was one experiment, and Hindu-Buddhist was another experiment. But according to Jesus, and I think even according to Tiendo, all the souls from either strain, because souls are real, regardless of what the interpretation of them is. I mean, there's ways of describing them. They're all back now. So they came, and Jesus said that was going to happen. That they would be joined together in the new land. That was not going to be Jerusalem area. But they didn't know about that land yet. It ended up being the melting pot of the United States. And in the 60s, when the Eastern religions, people, the gurus and the teachers from those ways of thinking, came to the United States, to me that was demonstrating the merger of the two ideologies or theologies. NW1 Online says, you two work so hard at teaching, even if not massiveness, don't watch. Okay, I'm not sure what you're saying there.
That we work hard at teaching.
I appreciate that, though. Sounds like a... Right, if somebody... Well, maybe what I'm getting from that is that if there's something that upsets somebody, they don't believe in or whatever, of course, nobody has to watch it. Or you can ignore that part. That's the benefit of having choices. You two took up the mantle, even losing, says MW1 Online. Nugo says, do you suspect that the class would have utilized gender-neutral pronouns, such as they, them, for members to overcome human gender identity? Should that have been a more common practice at the time?
Well, I don't think they would have, me personally, I don't think that they would have. I feel like they were doing their own thing in the names that they had. Like Soyoti, Doroti, Destoti, everybody's name was Sam Odie. I guess June Odie can sound like a female vehicle, but I feel like the names that you guys had kind of served that purpose and not necessarily like the pronoun thing is, to me, it feels like confusion. And I guess that's probably all I should say about it unless we want to get canceled.
Gosh, we get canceled for that reason, boy.
People really get really like it's interesting
hell.
Like how the trans right community is so almost militant. Like you speak out against it, and like the chick that wrote Harry Potter, like everyone thinks she's a horrible person because she said something about if you're born a female, you're a female. If you're born a male, you're a male. And everybody was like, oh my God, she needs to be burned at the stake. Kill her.
Yeah,
And there was another professor at some like really substantial university that was having some kind of rally or protest or something, or he was having a speech about how militant trans rights groups were getting, and just I don't even know what he was saying. I don't know, like whatever, but to prove his point, not intentionally, but a group of trans right activists showed up and basically shut his meeting down. So he wasn't able to have free speech and voice his opinion, which is exactly what trans rights people want, is to be able to do what they want, right? To be able to practice what they believe, but they won't let anybody else do that. Like, it's very hypocritical how, I think they're psychotic, actually, how hateful they are towards people who, like, my daughter gives me crap and she's like, you're transphobic because you won't call that person they, or I'm like, look, I'm too I'm too old to completely rearrange my speech to accommodate a few people. Whether they're in the hundreds or the thousands, it just seems like, I don't know, that whole movement just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I'm going to add to what Kathy's saying with...
Which will probably piss off a lot of people by me saying that. And I'm not transphobic. I don't have any, anybody can be whoever they want. It does rub me the wrong way to hear people who identify as female saying that they're women, because it just rubs me the wrong way. That invalidates...
Wait a minute, you mean male vehicles...
that say that they're
with
females.
genitalia that are saying that they're female.
Right, that they want to be identified as she, and I try to accommodate that. Like in, like even when we discuss things, it's like, she, her, like, like that.
Yeah, we say they sometimes.
In Savannah, they have drag queen tours, so I'm not like, that's not a negative thing for me to say it was a drag queen, and I was referring to her as her, because that's,
Right.
But I don't really think that person is a female. Like, you're not a female unless you have a womb. And I don't care what anybody says or how pissed off that makes people. That invalidates every single woman on this planet. And, like, what we have to go through. Like, maybe that's a selfish thing, but until you have a period and can't get off the goddamn floor because you are in so much pain...
You're not a woman. Yeah, woman
idea.
Comes from the word womb, right?
You have no idea.
Okay, now T and Do were totally different in a lot of ways. However, I think everybody has the right to identify the way they want to identify, but
I do too.
To force other people to use certain words to describe them. To me, that's like...
I think making everybody
else... It's a disservice to people.
Yeah, like there's a school in Vermont that the women's volleyball team, they now have to, like, change in the bathroom. They have to change in the women's bathroom because there's a male vehicle that is identifying as a female vehicle and wants to use the women's locker room. And... is getting completely naked and still has all of the male stuff. And these are high schoolers. They might even be middle schoolers. Like, everybody else on the team, I think it's 14 females and one male that identifies as female, is changing in this locker room. Well, a couple girls were really uncomfortable with that, and they're just like, I don't want to change in front of her, him, whatever. Now, none of the girls are allowed to change in that locker room, and just the male vehicle is in that locker room. Like, make it make sense. Like, how does that make sense?
Why can't the one person just change in another bathroom somewhere?
Right, but that is infringing on their rights. But who cares about infringing on all of the girls' rights? Like, one of the girls actually got suspended and almost expelled, and her parents spoke up, and they're suing the school now. This is in Vermont.
Oh, really?
It's just crazy. It's like...
I know that's happening in a number of places.
It's happening in a bunch. There's one school that they completely shut their bathrooms down. The kids can't use the bathrooms at all because less than 3 students identify as a different gender. So it's just like, so you have 600 kids in a school and 3 of them identify as a different gender, so nobody gets to use the bathroom? Like, make it make sense.
Yeah, so now T and O were gender consciousless. We were being taught to, the next level doesn't have gender. They're not mammals. They're above that, way above it. I mean, like, the difference between, like, a dog and a human is the difference between, like, a human and a member of the next level. So one of the requirements to be compatible with a next level body, a physical body that the next level members grow for their graduate souls to wear, is to lose our gender consciousness. Now, one thing T and Do said about that I remember about people that were attracted to the same gender that they were born with, if they were born with a gender, because I know some people can be born with both genders, and some people can be born with no gender, from what I've understood.
Right, non-binary
Right.
is what it's
So,
called.
but by and large, some huge number of people are born with a gender that's identifiable as one of the two genders. Okay, and so so individuals that are attracted to the same gender in a sexual way are, I believe Tiendo said, we're showing signs of having overcome gender consciousness, because you know how abrasive it is for some males to think about two males being attracted to each other. See, that shows that they haven't overcome gender consciousness. They're so upset by... Now, I can identify as my vehicle many years ago when I would think about two males kissing. It was like, ooh, that's really weird in my mind, okay? Now, I met gay guys, and I didn't have any problem with them. You know, I wasn't... one guy actually told me in the car, I didn't know he was gay, but then he told me he was, and I was taking him to my house because we were going to play music together. And this is after I left the classroom, and he said to me, by the way, I'm not attracted to you.
As if you'd be worried about that, because that's what a lot of gay guys have to deal with.
Right.
With straight men.
Well, I wasn't attracted to him at all.
Because they don't want to be, giving the wrong
now
impression or whatever.
It's weird though when I see someone that's got what looks like a male vehicle. It's got genitalia and stuff like that, and a big chest, and the way they are, a lot of men are. But when I see an individual that is wearing breasts and is wearing long hair and has an attractive appearance, my vehicle identifies a certain attraction to that person, because my vehicle is almost exclusively, maybe even exclusively attracted to female vehicles that are clearly female. It's a vibration more than it's a...
They do vibrate femininity.
Yes. So when they vibrate femininity, I get that. And even if you talk in a way that's...
Clearly male.
Yeah. Then I'm not attracted to it. If there's a female that talks like a male, I don't know. I'm not really that... Now... I can't really analyze this that much, right? I don't. But I know these feelings happen. So,
right.
Now, somebody that
feelings.
identifies with being attracted to the same gender as they were born with, even though they're showing signs of being outgrowing gender consciousness, if they're still sexual, then they haven't overcome their sexual consciousness, which members of the next level also have to overcome. Students have to overcome in order to graduate into next level membership. They have to overcome it enough to graduate into next level membership. So this has been mixed up, like Kathy was saying. Now, the use of pronouns, there was a circumstance where Doe learned that T was his older member. In other words, it's as if T was that human and Doe was a dog in their beginning. And then Doe graduated into the members of the next level, so now he was on the same strata. Okay, so now Doe had to come to realize that by being with T, okay, on a regular basis every day. he wasn't attracted to her at all because he was attracted to, his vehicle was attracted to male vehicles at that point, even though he had a heterosexual relationship with the woman that was his wife.
And they had kids.
And they had kids together, and they lived together until they broke up because he was clearly not. He was more attracted to females. I mean male vehicles. Okay, now we're talking about vehicles now. The whole thing here is talking about vehicles because souls don't have any attraction. They're not attracted to vehicles. They're attracted to minds.
Right.
And now, so though when he would talk about T, sometimes he would use the word she. And at one point he told us that he felt odd about referring to T as a she because he felt better about referring to T as a he because the word he actually represents man. Now, a man is not a gender man. It's not a male or a female. It's a member of the next level. And human is a facsimile of a man. Humans aren't real because they don't exist. They die. They don't really exist. And they're also time shared by all the influences around us. So they really don't exist the way that we think we exist.
Well, and he referred to T as his father as well.
Yes, and he referred to T as his heavenly father, as his father. He said it many times. And it's really telling how humans have come to so hate this use of terminology because of the patriarchism, of course, where females were put down and everything. But the reason why...
Burned at the stake.
Yeah, burned at the stake. But the reason why the women's suffrage movement started was because the next level was preparing the human kingdom to lose their gender consciousness. So they wanted to make sure that females had all the same opportunities that males had before that. There's a lot to learn by being in either vehicle. Like in the Jesus time, the female vehicles that were there were showing more advancement than some of the male vehicles. When the male vehicles were criticizing a female vehicle for using some of their oil on the hair of Jesus, anointing him for his burial, they knew he was going to be dying. They complained. They said that why shouldn't we take that oil and sell it and give the proceeds to the poor? And what Jesus said was, the poor you have with you always. She is doing that for me, for my, I forgot his exact words. She was showing her deep love for him. The females were the ones that met him at the tomb. Now, the males probably would have been stabbed or something, right? So maybe that's the reason that happened that way.
Right, there was only a couple, like Jesus' mother.
Jesus' mother was at the right, and Mary Magdalene.
And at the cross as well.
And Mary Magdalene was the first one, I think, to actually go to the tomb and see the tomb that was open, and then the angel said to her, she said, "Where's my master?" And he said, the angel there, the member of the next level that was serving that purpose at that point, said, "He has risen." And anyway, then she walked a little bit further away, and then he was there, and he said, "Don't touch me because I haven't descended to my Father yet." And then he went back and ascended to his Father, and then he came back, and then he met with some of the other disciples in the upper room. So those female vehicles were members of the crew, souls that chose to take female vehicles, I believe, at that time, because the human experience is meant to be something that a soul experiences what either gender vehicle experiences, because the genderness is animal. It's a mammalian, like animals act according to their genders in the wild. Some give birth. Members of the next level don't give birth to babies. That's why you have to lose that consciousness, because if you take that consciousness, if you were allowed to take that consciousness with you in your soul to next level spacecraft, you would be like out of place, because you'd be like still desiring to have that, you'd still have some of that programming in your consciousness. So you'd be like, wouldn't be focused, or you'd be staticky, or in your communication and things like, I don't know exactly what would happen. But you'd actually, what they said was you'd abort the vehicle, because the vehicles aren't prepared for, they're prepared for a very pure mind to take it over and grow with it. But so I agree with Kathy that they wouldn't have, but if they met somebody on the street or something, and and the person said, I don't know, call me by they, or something like that, maybe they would do it. I would do it. I do that, actually do that. If somebody wants me to do it, I don't want to offend anybody.
It's just hard to, it's like putting another program in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like to me, that humans are being reprogrammed with certain movements that happen. I think T and Do would be very interested in the gender issues that are arising. I think they'd be very. I think they would be looking into it. I think they would think it was very interesting. I'm just looking at my notes from the last year of tapes that we have, and there were times that Doe was talking about getting surgery to reduce the size of his ears, so they didn't stick out so much, and that wasn't a vanity thing. That was because next level members don't have ears. They have ear holes, but they don't have like these huge, floppy things. And we can listen to that again, because you were thinking that he was talking about getting his ears removed so he could fit the EBE mask.
No, I think it's both. I think it's both what you're saying.
We can listen to that again. But in a lot, like I in my personal notes while I was listening to the tapes from the last year, like I wonder what Doe would think about people that have undergone extreme body modifications, or transitioning from male to female, female to male. Like I wonder what he would think about that, because he talked about Michael Jackson and how Michael Jackson went from what he was naturally to what he ended up as. Like he transformed himself.
He spoke favorably about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it wasn't negatively, it was favorably, and I think that's interesting. That tape with the dreams was tape 913.
Okay.
From January 3rd, 1996.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to hear that again. Another thing...
well, can we get through the chat? Because I really want to stop.
All right.
I don't know how much more we've got to go, but I don't think it's that much, so... I'm tired. I want to eat and not be up forever.
Yeah, I hear you. If aliens got sick so easily, that should have been a better ending. With the remake, the background in Stream looks like Mars. This is MW1 Online saying this. No offense, both of yourselves having to have tirelessly teach without sounding crazy. Well,
I
I'm
think
glad
we
we don't
do.
sound crazy.
I think we do sound crazy, but
Sure we
sometimes I've been listening to because we did a kind of a flurry of interviews, and I was watching one of them, and I was just like, that sounds
Yeah, I just
really
want to say one more thing
nuts.
about that gender consciousness
That sounds a little
idea.
nuts.
And I think it's kind of I think it's a good exercise to change your vocabulary. Because it makes you think ahead. And that's what T and Do did with us in a lot of ways. So I don't think that's a bad part. But
I feel like, I don't know why, if it's just a personal thing or whatever, but there's pushback in me from that. It just feels like, at the sake of a few, we're sacrificing the many.
Well, yeah, I think
as opposed to the other. It just, I don't know. There's just things about it that just
I hear you.
Rub me the wrong way.
I hear you. I think it's in a sense, I think it's kind of like a backlash that comes because of the way that gay people were persecuted.
Shouldn't force people to do things.
Right, and they were forced. I mean, people have been persecuted because of their sexual preferences for
they've been outright
hundreds
killed.
of years. Yeah,
and that's why trans people are fighting to use the bathroom of their gender, because if a male that identifies as a female and to all intents and purposes on the outside looks that way and goes into a male bathroom, there's potentially going to be a problem. There has been problem. They've been literally beat to death.
Oh, you mean if they transitioned from female to male?
No.
No, male to female. And so they had
and then
some
they go
kind of
into a boy's bathroom.
Yeah.
They've literally been beat to death.
Well, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that would be. So what they should do is just make another bathroom for the person.
Well, I don't know. Like, a lot of movie theaters have what they call family bathrooms.
Right.
That are genderless, basically. You can all go in there.
Yeah,
there's all different kinds of scenarios, but like there's several restaurants that we've been into here in Savannah where it's got the male and the female figure on the bathroom. It's one stall, it's just one bathroom. So it doesn't matter. I don't know. I feel like that's a better option.
Yeah, I would go into male bathrooms when I was in elementary school, and I was embarrassed getting naked in front of them anyway. And males would make fun of males, and females make fun of females.
Yeah, like there was a lot of ass kicking going on in bathrooms. My daughter would not go to the bathroom at school. She hated it. Like, she would wait until she got home.
So I think most people these days aren't gonna beat on somebody that's.
They do though.
Yeah, they do. But I guess that maybe the way to fix that isn't. You don't get naked in that.
Well, bathroom. You don't get naked in bathrooms. Like, if you were a male identifying as a female, you would go into the stall.
They have makeup on and everything. They're looking like a female. They look like they have breasts. They may have them. They have implants, or they groom with hormones.
Or they just have padding.
Yeah, right.
So they've got like prosthesis.
So there's going to be certain people that are going to find a fence with that still, but a lot of people aren't going to find a fence with that. I know in Vermont
is
there were
different.
gay people in the high school because I was teaching there.
Yeah, Vermont is different, babe.
Yeah.
Like here in rural Georgia or rural South Carolina, you better watch your ass doing that.
Yeah, I bet.
There's a lot of places like that.
Yeah, I would try to hide from that. I wouldn't want to be out front, showing that to people.
And that's a problem too, like they're suppressed. That's the whole movement. Like, I mean, I understand parts of it, but other parts, like to make other people uncomfortable because you have to have your free speech, but nobody else gets to have it in that. I don't know. It's just there's too many extremes in it. I guess.
Right. Okay, so roast beef queef. Okay.
Don't say that out loud again.
Right. Sorry. Hey guys, just found this channel. I'm glad to see this. Can you say hi if you see this. Yeah, I did. And throughout the whole struggle, Kathy shines to teach. I think it's ridiculous, says NW1 online. XF97 says, I think it's ridiculous that these so-called documentaries keep giving the theme that the only believers in Tiando are those who used to be in Heaven's Gate, and there's no new believers. Absurd. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to have something where that talked to. I mean, that was some of the Netflix thing that we were doing that never came out. I think it would be nice if they would talk to, several of us. Is that all that you have to go through?
Yeah.
Well, I think, let's just read that later and get back to it because it is late and I don't want to be...
All right.
Because we don't like to just, say something really fast.
Yeah.
We like to go through and, talk to people. So
Stephen Greer.
We say this quite a bit, but we'll try to be more on top of getting to the chat. Because that's a lot of the reason why we come on, so you can... ask Sawyer questions and get answers and...
You know what I'll try to do? I'll try to copy these and I'll answer them in the comments.
Or if you would, it'll help with the algorithm if you actually comment your questions on the video after it's over.
Yeah, if you don't mind, the people that are still here that haven't asked any questions. I'm just going to scan here.
Sorry. We just go on and on and on. We get into a little... I used to be a lot better about that, but I was rushing Sawyer a lot of the time to get through all the chat, and I decided I wasn't going to do that anymore, and I was going to let him handle the chat, and then we get hundreds of comments.
I actually got to the bottom, and the only question was about Stephen Greer.
Who is that?
He's a
doctor, or?
Yeah, he's a doctor that did a good job in bringing to C-SPAN all these witnesses to UFO sightings from the military and
I feel like I heard his name.
And then he formed the Disclosure Project, and I followed him. I bought his books, and then I think he got kind of off track in a lot of ways, thinking that the government was stimulating a lot of the UFO sightings. But
then you said that
you
said that before, that you thought that maybe that they were doing that.
Yeah, so they may be doing a lot of the things that we're seeing over the years. But I think he's talking about the government's trying to stimulate a fake alien invasion. And see, the thing is that I think that's probably true. At the same time, it's the next level that's actually coming to the planet to recycle. I mean, they're already here. I mean, they observe the planet from a distance, and they have people doing things on the planet all the time, potentially, stimulating earthquakes even, and things like that. And so the people that don't believe the next level exists in a real context are seeing them as aliens. So it's ironic that the creators of the whole project, we wouldn't exist without their development of these systems that they're saying are going to come and take over because they're coming to recycle. And the souls that were the lower forces that dropped out and went against them are all going to be recycled too. And that's the fear, and that's why they have these thoughts. Anyway, let that be said. And we'll be glad to address anything else that was said in here in comments. And we'll say goodnight.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it.
I forgot how to turn this one off.
Don't you have to hit end on that too?
Yes.
Yes.